Chapter 849. Wow! What a big dragon! Can this thing be used as an ingredient? Why does it look so evil? It looks like a netherworld creature. Look at the nether energy moving around the dragon's body. When the people in the Gluttony God City saw the giant demon dragon, they all gathered around it. Their faces were filled with shock as they pointed at the demon dragon, their mouths constantly talking. Hades' era was very satisfied with this feeling. This was a netherworld creature. Why didn't Bufang young man exchange it for a few more spicy strips, especially since he still had a dragon egg in his hand? Using a dragon egg to cook egg fried rice, that taste would definitely be delicious. Nether King Erha's eyes flickered. He raised his brows, giving Bufang a look that said, "You know." Bufang twitched the corners of his mouth. Facing Hades' eyes, he directly chose to ignore it. He clasped his hands, walking out of the restaurant. He came to the front of the giant dragon's head. Although this demonic dragon had already been slapped to death by Nether King Erha's palm, the faint pressure emanating from its body still made Bufang furrow his brows. This dragon's level isn't low. However, at first glance, it doesn't look like a good ingredient. Bufang said. Don't. Bufang young man, look carefully. Look carefully. This is definitely a good ingredient. This dragon is called the Papillion. Do you know the Papillion? It's a very famous spirit beast in the netherworld. It's specially bred in captivity. I've spent a lot of effort to catch it. Hades' era's face didn't even blush as he said that. Papillion? Bufang slowly walked around the demon dragon's corpse. All of a sudden, he raised his hand and pressed on the dragon's abdomen near its spine. This part of the dragon's meat could be said to be the most delicious part of the entire dragon. However, if he wanted to make sweet and sour dragon ribs, he needed the dragon's spine. Feeling the hardness of the ingredient and the feedback of the texture in his palm, Bufang nodded slightly. To be honest, this was the best dragon meat Bufang had ever encountered. Of course, the illuminating blood dragon that they met at the source of the Acheron in hell last time did not count. That big guy was not an ingredient yet. How should I put this? This dragon is huge, but there are only 3 spots that can be considered good ingredient. Since there are only 3 spots, I'll give you 1 chili strip for each spot. How about 3 in total? Bufang patted the demon dragon's hard scales and said. Hades' era was stunned for a moment before a hint of joy appeared on his face. 3. This King Papillion that he had picked up could actually be exchanged for 3 ingredients. It was really delightful. Although he was ecstatic, Hades' era's face was still very serious. Bufang young man. Alright, even if the dragon meat is 3 spicy strips, what about the dragon egg? Hades' era tossed the jade-like dragon egg in his hand. From the looks of it, this dragon egg was not bad at all. Bufang received the dragon egg from Hades' hand, carefully sizing it up. However, as soon as he received this dragon egg, he could feel that this dragon egg was unique. It was not because it was unique, but because this dragon egg was actually a dead egg. There was no aura of life within the egg, but it was full of vitality. It was really contradictory. This kind of egg, Bufang did not dare to eat it, because he was sure that this egg would not taste good. Since he did not dare to eat this egg, and it did not taste good, what was the use of it? Thus, Bufang tossed the dragon egg to Hades' era. This egg cannot be exchanged, Bufang said. After saying that, his hand covered the huge demon dragon's body. Buzz! The system-dimensional bag produced a suction force, directly sucking the demon dragon into it. Hades' era was slightly bewildered. This was a dragon egg. Why could it not be exchanged for spicy strips? No way. Could it be that the price of goods had risen? The Nether King was confused. This made his heart ache. A dragon egg couldn't even be exchanged for a chili strip. Looking at the jade-like dragon egg, Hades was angry. He grabbed the egg with one hand and smashed it on the ground. Smack! The dragon egg smashed on the ground. While everyone was stunned, the dragon egg shattered as soon as it touched the ground. The eggshell was as fragile as a piece of paper, directly shattering. The egg liquid flowed all over the ground. Hades was dumbfounded. He took a step back, looking at the broken dragon egg on the ground. His eyes widened. This egg. How could it be broken? This dragon egg was fake, right? How could a dragon egg be so fragile? Even chicken eggs would not shatter so easily. All of a sudden, someone exclaimed in surprise. Because they found that the egg liquid, which had flowed all over the ground, was absorbed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Soon it disappeared. Crack! The ground cracked. In the next instant, a purple-black sapling popped out. As if sensing the fresh air, the sapling crazily swelled. Hades's eyes narrowed. He frowned and took a few steps back. Looking at the madly growing purple-black sapling, he revealed a look of astonishment. This is the Demon Eye Clan's Mandala demonic tree? The demonic tree with the teleportation effect? As the boss of the netherworld, Hades' era naturally saw through the origin of this demonic tree. He suddenly understood, finally understanding why Bufang did not choose this dragon egg. It turned out that this dragon egg actually hid the seed of the mandala. This Papillion's dragon egg originally had a surging vitality and catalytic ability. The purpose of using this kind of dragon egg was to catalyze the mandala. In this dragon egg, the mandala was the main one. The dragon egg was simply a dead egg. When this dragon egg was born, its future was already determined. It was a dead egg. The cunning Bufang young man, so he had already seen through everything. Bufang stood at the entrance of the restaurant, looking at the purple-black tree that had grown crazily to dozens of meters tall in an instant. There was even mucus flowing on the tree. Bufang crossed his arms in front of his chest, his expression indifferent. He looked at Hades' era. Whoever made this thing should deal with it. Otherwise, your 3 spicy strips will be directly cancelled out, Bufang said. This tree grew here, almost completely covering the Taotai restaurant. This was something that could not be allowed. Hades froze, instantly sucking in a breath of cold air. He did not dare to be the slightest bit negligent. This Bufang young man seized the opportunity to embezzle the spicy strips that belonged to him. His thoughts were simply sinister, and there was no need for outsiders to know. Rumble, the mandala tree quickly stopped growing. This was because the energy in the egg liquid had been completely consumed. The branches swayed and soon they slowly rolled up, forming a circular opening. There was energy flowing in that opening, and then a pitch-black figure came out of the opening. Indeed, this mandala tree was used to transport netherworld warriors. After Hades determined the use of this tree, his figure instantly soared into the sky. He hovered in front of the opening. With a wave of his hand, black energy surged, instantly condensing into a black palm that covered the sky. The palm stretched horizontally, fiercely slapping toward the opening. With a loud explosion, the mandala demon tree instantly collapsed, breaking inch by inch. Many creatures from the ruined prison had already walked to the opening, but they were actually slapped back by that palm. That kind of sullen feeling frightened people. Since you can't exchange for spicy strips, what's the use of keeping you guys? Hades' era said. Then, he waved his long sleeves, instantly blowing away the debris on the ground. The 10-mile-long street once again became cold and cheerless. After finishing everything, Nether King Ha walked into the restaurant with a contented look on his face. He sat down on the dining table of the restaurant. Bufang returned to the kitchen to continue cooking. The aroma of steaming hot dishes quickly wafted out of the kitchen. This time, Bufang would first make dragon blood rice for you, and Lord Go's sweet and sour ribs would have to wait for a while. In the kitchen, Bufang's hand moved, and instantly, a piece of meat from the demon dragon's spine that had been cut was placed on the chopping board. The demon dragon's dragon bones were very big, so after Bufang removed the dragon bones, he took the meat from the spine. Towards this ingredient, Bufang was very interested. An authentic netherworld ingredient, he could try it out. Hence, Bufang prepared to make a sweet and sour dragon ribs first. In a short while, in the kitchen, the extremely rich aroma of the dish wafted over. That aroma stirred people's hearts, making them swallow their saliva uncontrollably. One had to admit that it was really fragrant. Lord Go, who was lying under the path understanding tree, instantly widened his dog eyes. His dog nose opened wide, and his nostrils slightly twitched. A moment later, like a whirlwind sweeping away the clouds, he laid on the dining table, sticking out his tongue in excitement. He looked in the direction of the kitchen, his heart filled with anticipation. The aroma of sweet and sour dragon ribs. It was the aroma of the real sweet and sour dragon ribs. This sweet and sour ribs was poured with boiling hot sauce, which had a reddish-orange color, causing the meat to become soft. With a gentle sniff, one couldn't help but salivate. Lord Go couldn't wait any longer. As the #1 fanatic of sweet and sour ribs, Lord Go's love for sweet and sour ribs was beyond anyone's imagination. Just like how Hades had a special liking for spicy strips, Lord Go loved sweet and sour ribs. Every time he ate sweet and sour ribs, the fat on Lord Go's body would slightly tremble. It was an excited tremble, and it was a tremble of joy. Ordinary people wouldn't understand. When the sweet and sour ribs was placed in front of Lord Go's dog nose moved, and he deeply sniffed. In the next instant, he started to chew on the sweet and sour ribs. This is the taste of papillion meat? Lord Go ate a piece of sweet and sour dragon ribs, saying in shock. Across the table, Hades Era held a spicy strip and went in and out, proudly snorting. Mangy dog, you can still taste it? That's right. The sweet and sour ribs you're eating now is the papillion meat that I painstakingly caught. Hades Era said. Tell I loudly. Mangy dog, how are you going to thank I? What a joke. Lord Go glanced at Hades Era, his gentle and magnetic voice instantly resounding. As for Bufang, he was already used to the bickering between a man and a dog. Lord Go's daily routine was to lie under the path understanding tree and sleep. When he woke up, he would eat sweet and sour ribs, bicker with Hades Era, and then go back to sleep. Bufang, who wasn't surprised at all, raised the corner of his mouth, then turned around and returned to the restaurant. Next, he prepared to try a new dish. He walked in front of the stove. A light flashed in Bufang's hand. From the system-dimensional bag, he took out a piece of papillion steak, which was wrapped with thick energy and cut into pieces. This papillion steak was taken from the demon dragon's waist. It was the most essential part of the dragon's meat. It was close to the spine, but it wasn't the spine meat. It was dragon meat with a perfect ratio of fat and muscle. And Bufang's next dish was a medium-well papillion steak. Chapter 850. Frying the papillion steak, and it had to be medium-well. This was a great test of the chef's ability to control the heat. However, Bufang did not have much of a headache with regards to the control of the heat, because he had the fire control technique. Regarding the control of the heat, he was more proficient than other chefs. The Black Turtle constellation wok was a god of cooking set, and it could change into any wok according to Bufang's will. The wok needed to fry the papillion steak was different from an ordinary wok. As Bufang's will changed, the Black Turtle constellation wok also gradually changed, and lines appeared on the surface of the wok. This was the wok line, which could help in frying the papillion steak to create beautiful patterns. Picking up the demon dragon meat, it was a piece of dragon meat that was 1.5 fingers thick. The meat chosen was from the dragon's waist, not reaching the spine. The meat here was the best part of the entire dragon's body. Because the dragon's waist moved less, there was less muscle in the meat. Most of it was the kind of juicy fat meat, and it was not the kind of fat that was oily when eaten. Pinching that piece of dragon meat, the dragon meat itself had very beautiful lines. After using the Heaven Alps Spirit spring water to clean these lines, He put them on the prepared blue and white porcelain plate. As for Bufang, he continued to prepare the steps of frying the papillion steak. Bufang opened his mouth, and a ball of dark golden flame spurted out, drilling under the black turtle constellation Wak. Boom! The flame instantly exploded, and the temperature began to rise rapidly. In just a moment, the surface of the black turtle constellation Wak began to heat up. He poured the oil into the wok, and the bubbling oil covered the entire wok. Sizzle! Steam rose, and the oil that entered the wok rose to a high temperature in a short while. Smoke spread out. The choice of oil was actually very important. Bufang furrowed his brows. He felt that it was time to change the oil. When he had time, he could go and squeeze some oil. Good oil could make the fragrance of the dish rise to a higher level. This was a point that could not be ignored. On the wok of oil, faint white smoke rose. Bufang stretched out his palm, waving it above the wok. After feeling the temperature, he slightly nodded. He took a piece of dragon meat that he had prepared and used absorbent paper to dry the water stains on the surface of the dragon meat. After that, Bufang carefully placed the piece of dragon meat into the wok. Pust pust pust. As soon as it entered the wok, a sizzling sound rang out, and the smoke became thicker. There was also a meaty aroma that rose instantly. This aroma made Bufang's nose twitch involuntarily. This piece of dragon meat had relatively little muscle. As soon as it entered the pot and was roasted, the fragrance instantly burst forth, stirring up one's nostrils and causing one to involuntarily sink into it. Not bad, Bufang exclaimed in admiration as his eyes fell on the wok. When he first saw the demonic dragon, he thought that the meat of the demonic dragon wasn't a good ingredient. He didn't expect that the dragon meat would be so fragrant when fried. As soon as the dragon meat entered the wok, Bufang didn't move it, because there was no need to. At this time, the temperature of the wok was just right. With a sizzling sound, the water in the dragon meat was completely locked. That way, the dragon meat would be tender and juicy. Moreover, at this time, it was also the time to create the pattern. A slight movement could destroy the composition of the pattern. In Bufang's spirit sea, strands of mental energy shot out like silk, winding around the black turtle constellation Wak. While frying the papillion steak, his mind flickered, reducing the temperature of the heaven and earth obsidian flame, turning it into a small flame and slowly frying it. Sizzle! The oil in the wok splashed everywhere, and the dragon meat was also slightly shaking. The dragon meat under the wok had already begun to show a slight change in color. The color of the meat above and below the meat became distinct. The dragon bone kitchen knife appeared in his hand. With a dragon roar, the dragon bone kitchen knife turned into a small knife. Gently, he moved it to one side of the papillion steak, turning it 70 degrees. Sizzling sounds rang out in the wok again, and smoke rose. After Bufang moved it, he let it continue to fry. This way, he could fry a net-like pattern. Bufang's mental energy was constantly sensing the changes in the meat in the wok. After all, he had to ensure that it was 70% cooked. If he fried it for too long, the dragon meat would become old, and it would affect the taste. Bufang's palm slightly moved, and the flame constantly changed its temperature. After a while, the surface of the dragon meat began to have gravy seeping out. The fragrance in the air became thicker and thicker, making people salivate. It was really very fragrant. He sprinkled the seasonings that he had prepared on the meat. Once the seasonings were sprinkled, the aroma of the meat became more fragrant. Not only the kitchen, even the people in the restaurant were entangled by this fragrance. In the restaurant, the heavenly secret Saint Sovereign floated over with his hands clasped behind his back. These days, he would come to this Tautai restaurant every day. After all, the heavenly secret saintess was here, so he did not dare to have the slightest neglect. Today, the hidden dragon continent could be said to be in an abyss of misery. Those netherworld creatures constantly used special methods to send troops over. Once the troops entered the hidden dragon continent, they would attack the cities. This caused the natives of the hidden dragon continent to start a war with those netherworld creatures. The flames of war reached the sky. Today, except for the endless sea, where there was no war, there were netherworld creatures appearing everywhere on the continent. No matter which corner, no matter how remote the place was, there were netherworld creatures everywhere. It had to be said that this was really a disaster. This was because the heavenly star-catcher disk had been destroyed, and the great path of heaven was flawed. It was a gap, and it was just a gap, but it allowed so many netherworld creatures to invade. Once an Yin, who had fused with the heavenly star-catcher disk, was killed, the entire great path of heaven of the hidden dragon continent would have more gaps. At that time, it would really be doomsday. Thus, the heavenly secret Saint Sovereign had to protect an Yin. She could not have any mishaps. According to his understanding, it was best to bring an Yin back to the heavenly secret Holy Land and use the heavenly secret Great Array to protect her. That should be the safest way. Although this restaurant had an expert guarding it, that expert was still a netherworld creature. He wanted to bring an Yin away, but his heart was bitter. He could not defeat that narcissistic man, and he did not have the slightest confidence to defeat that fat black dog lying under the path understanding tree. Thus, he could only run to the restaurant every day. Fortunately, the taste of the dishes in this restaurant was not bad. He had traveled around the continent and eaten countless delicacies, but Bufang's food left a deep impression on him. Today, as soon as he stepped into the restaurant, he smelled the unique meaty fragrance in the air. This meaty fragrance made all the pores on his body slightly open. What is this fragrance? Why is it so fragrant? Mo Tianji's heart trembled as he looked at the group of people sitting at the table. Old Mo, you're here. This morning, I brought a new ingredient to Owner Bu. Owner Bu said that he wanted to research a new dish. Didn't he ask us to wait? Hades Era saw Mo Tianji, flipping his hair as he said. As Mo Tianji had been running to the restaurant for the past few days, Hades Era had become somewhat familiar with him. Of course, Mo Tianji was still a little disgusted with Hades Era. After all, this fellow had personally stripped him of his clothes. This kind of deep hatred was not something that could be resolved with a few days of chatting. However, regarding Bufang's new dish, Mo Tianji was also a little expectant. His eyes brightened as he pulled a chair and sat at the table. Looking at the others, he raised his head and waited for Bufang's new dish. The meaty fragrance in the air became thicker, causing everyone to involuntarily squint their eyes. In the kitchen, the meaty fragrance was so thick that it almost materialized. In the black turtle constellation walk, the papillion steak's color became extremely resplendent. It was like rays of light that were about to soar into the sky, and the energy fluctuations were extremely intense. Bufang narrowed his eyes as his mental energy surged. Like tentacles, it covered the surface of the meat. He flipped the papillion steak, and the fried side was flipped over. The color on it was a kind of deep red, and crisscrossing net-like patterns densely covered it. The meat was also filled with boiling oil, and the fragrance rose from it. According to the previous method, he fried the other side. Bufang looked at the side of the papillion steak. The side had a thick pink color, which meant that the current papillion steak was only about half done. It was still a little far from the medium well that Bufang needed. As time passed, the oil on the papillion steak splashed. Looking at it from the side, the color of the papillion steak was only a little pink. The corners of Bufang's mouth rose. He grabbed the wok cake, and with a flip of his hand, the papillion steak in the black turtle constellation wok instantly flew up into the sky. It flipped in the air. The orange-yellow oil splashed everywhere as the papillion steak tumbled. Under the illumination of the light, the papillion steak emitted a gorgeous color, as if it could shine. The large round blue and white porcelain plate that had been prepared was held in his hand. With a clatter, that papillion steak instantly fell on the porcelain plate. The papillion steak that fell on the porcelain plate was still slightly jumping, and the meat was shaking. When Bufang saw it, his appetite couldn't help but increase. Sizzle! 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 He quickly stir-fried it. Then, he poured the stir-fried dish to the other side of the porcelain plate, making the entire dish even more perfect. Covering it with a dish lid, the aroma was instantly isolated. Asking for a knife and fork from the system, he placed the knife and fork on the porcelain plate. Then, Bufang gently exhaled. Swinging the vermilion robe on his body, the corners of Bufang's mouth rose, revealing a satisfied smile. Then, he walked out of the kitchen. Walking to the door, Xiaobai stood there. Bufang raised his hand, gently patting his round belly. Xiaobai rubbed his head. In the restaurant, everyone was already very expectant. From time to time, their gazes would turn to the direction of the kitchen. After Lord Go finished eating the sweet and sour dragon ribs, he actually didn't return to the path understanding tree to sleep. Instead, he was like everyone else, both of his paws on the dining table, raising his head in anticipation. The meaty aroma in the air made Lord Go's appetite rise. Hua Yu Little Ha Chu Chongxing, who was wearing a waiter's robe, and the heavenly secret Saint Sovereign, who came to join in the fun. A group of people sat around the dining table. Everyone was very expectant. All of a sudden, they were a little excited, because in their line of sight, a slim and slender figure slowly walked out of the kitchen. Bufang single-handedly dragged the porcelain plate with a lid, walking out of the kitchen. As soon as he walked out, he was a little bewildered, because he noticed that a few gazes fell on him. Bufang's heart was a little suspicious. He raised his eyebrows, then walked to the dining table. Placing the dish on the table, he pressed the lid with one hand and with the other, he pulled out a chair and sat down. Everyone's gazes gathered on him, and the sound of gulping resounded unceasingly. They were suddenly a little excited. The dish that Bufang had cooked, with its overwhelming aroma, was it finally going to appear? They were really looking forward to it. Lord Go also squinted his dog eyes, sticking out his tongue. However, Bufang did not open the lid. Instead, he took out a crystal-like wine cup, pouring the fragrant Frost Blaze Path Understanding brew into it. The Frost Blaze Path Understanding brew's production was limited, and Bufang only sold it in limited quantities. He also drank it sparingly. However, today, in order to complement this dish, he had to drink wine. If he ate papillion steak without drinking wine, what was the difference between him and a salted fish? Under the gazes of tens of thousands, Bufang opened the lid of the dish. Beams of dazzling light shot out from within, dazzling everyone's eyes. Sizzling sounds resounded. Oil splashed everywhere, and the meaty aroma assailed everyone's nostrils. It's too fragrant. Bufang young man, hurry up and let I have a taste. Bufang kid, Lord Go wants it too. Bufang, I'm hungry, woo woo woo. Numerous gazes fell on Bufang, and all of them had hopeful looks in their eyes. There was only one dish. Who should he give it to? This was a problem. However, in the face of their expectations, Bufang only lifted his head in confusion, glancing at the crowd. Sorry, this dish. I'll eat it myself. Chapter 851. I'm sorry. This dish, I'll eat it myself. Bufang's calm voice rang out. When he said this, his face didn't blush, and his heart didn't beat fast. There wasn't the slightest bit of nervousness, nor was there any increase in his blood flow. The crowd, who were originally in high spirits, were immediately shocked by his words. What was this kid saying? What did he say? Bufang young man, that's not right of you. Good things should be shared with everyone. Bufang kid, the Lord Go's exquisite dog paw has long been hungry and thirsty. Bufang, I'm hungry. I want to eat. Woo 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 woo. Hades Era and the others suddenly burst out, glaring at Bufang as they spoke. The rays of golden light dissipated, revealing the appearance of the dish. Sizzle! The hot air rose up, and the oil on it was still splashing. The deep red papillion steak had a unique meaty fragrance that tickled everyone's taste buds, causing them to involuntarily swallow their saliva. Just looking at it made one's appetite soar. Bufang cocked his head. He didn't care about these thirsty fellows at all. If he didn't give it to them, could they overturn the sky? Was he the chef or were they the chef? Did they dare to threaten him? Bufang was very calm, leisurely sitting on his seat. He took a white towel and spread it on the table. He indifferently looked at the papillion chop that was fried until it was golden and tender. The medium-well papillion steak's gravy seemed to be flowing with the naked eye. Picking up the exquisite wine cup, the wine cup was transparent, and the green frost blaze path understanding brew reflected light in the wine cup. The wine fragrance assailed the nose, mixing with the rich meaty aroma, making people completely immersed and unable to extricate themselves. Hades' era really couldn't stand it anymore, although the taste was still a little worse than the spicy strip. With such a delicious taste in front of him, how could he bear it? Bufang, young man, let I have a taste first. Hades' era's eyes brightened, reaching out his hand toward the papillion steak. However, before that hand could touch the papillion steak, it was slapped away by Bufang. Don't mess around. Eating the papillion steak isn't just about the taste, it's also about the mood and mood. If you eat it without thinking, you'll only waste this medium-well papillion steak. Bufang said faintly, "Watch me eat first, watch you eat, why don't you go to heaven?" Everyone was speechless. Hades' era felt that he was already very shameless, but compared to Bufang, he found that he could be even more shameless. Lord Go snorted. You stuck out her tongue and licked her red lip. Her eyes shone brightly. Bufang looked at the papillion steak in front of him and suddenly thought of something. Looking at the boiling hot papillion steak, Bufang rubbed his chin. He stood up and swept his gaze across everyone. This dish still lacks an ingredient. I'll go in and stir it up for a while. You guys are not allowed to eat it secretly, Bufang said. Everyone looked at each other, nodding their heads in unison. Even if they ate secretly, they couldn't tell you. Hua, that girl, nodded her head until her hair scattered in all directions. Very satisfied with these guys' attitudes, Bufang stood up and walked into the kitchen unhurriedly. He had to prepare a portion of sauce. Although the fried papillion steak was already very flavorful, to achieve a perfect texture, sauce was absolutely indispensable. Taking out a small cup of Frost Blaze Path Understanding brew, he poured it into the Black Turtle Constellation wok. After chopping up the ingredients, he placed them into the Black Turtle Constellation wok and cooked them with a big fire. In the next instant, Bufang took out the abyssal chili sauce and scooped half a spoonful into the wok. Gulp, gulp. In a short while, the sauce was cooked. Bufang scooped out a spoonful of boiling hot sauce. In reality, the sauce needed to cool down. However, boiling hot sauce also had a scalding taste. In the restaurant, the atmosphere instantly became a little awkward. The air was very quiet. The only sound was the sizzling sound of the oil splashing on the porcelain plate. Hades' era widened his eyes, scanning the entire place. His gaze collided with everyone's gaze. His gaze had a story behind it. Lord Go narrowed his doggy eyes. His doggy paw patted on the dining table, meeting Hades' era's gaze. It was as if they could communicate with each other just by looking at each other. Mangy dog. Do you want to eat? If you dare to eat, I dare to eat, you half, I half. Shut up. You take 30%, Lord Go takes 70%. F***CK. Mangy dog, you're really shameless. I take 90%, you take 10%. You want to fight with Lord Go? Don't fight so easily. We're people with status. Can't we solve the problem in a civilized way? I take 80%, you take 20%. Forget it. Let's just fight. A man and a dog's gazes collided unceasingly. There seemed to be blazing sparks flying everywhere. Saint Sovereign Tianji was speechless as he watched. Yu also rolled her eyes. Ever since Hua came out of the papillion steak, her gaze hadn't shifted. However, since Lord Go didn't eat, she didn't dare to eat. Why are you guys so silent? If you want to eat, then eat. If you guys don't want to eat, then I will. The awkwardness in the air made Saint Sovereign Tianji a little uncomfortable. He swept his gaze across the crowd, finally opening his mouth. In the next instant, he stood up, took the chopsticks, and planned to pick up the papillion steak. Closer and closer, closer and closer, Hades' Era and Lord Go's eyes widened. Yu also opened her red lips, looking forward to it. Woo woo woo. Hua couldn't help but let out a soft cry. If you dare to touch this papillion steak, then be prepared to be stripped again and enter the blacklist of the restaurant. Just as Mo Tianji's chopsticks were about to touch the papillion steak, a faint voice suddenly rang out. In the direction of the kitchen, Bufang carried a small bowl of sauce, slowly walking out. When Mo Tianji heard Bufang's words, his figure instantly froze on the spot. Stripping? Once he heard Bufang say stripping, a bad memory rose in his heart. That tragic scene made his hand instantly tremble, and the chopsticks that he was holding could no longer be put down. Everyone felt that it was a pity, and Bufang had returned. Pulling out a chair, he once again sat on it. The corners of his mouth curled up, and he playfully looked at the crowd. Then, he poured the small bowl of sauce in his hand onto the deep red papillion steak. Sizzle! Once the sauce was poured, in an instant, white steam rose up, and the aroma became even thicker. That aroma was also mixed with the rich aroma of the sauce. Hades' Era's eyes almost popped out of their sockets, because when his nose twitched, he could smell a trace of the smell of the abyss within the aroma that rose up. That was a smell that was somewhat similar to chili strip. I'm going to die. The taste of chili strips. Hades' Era's expression changed. Covering his face with both hands, he let out a shrill scream. The fried papillion steak had been laid out for so long, and the dragon meat had already completely calmed down. The dragon meat had softened, and the texture had become even better. With the addition of the seasoning sauce, the aroma assailed their nostrils. Bufang was a little impatient. Woof! Bufang, you brat! Lord Go wants to eat. Lord Go bared his teeth. Bufang gave Lord Go a look. Then, the corners of his mouth revealed a meaningful smile. When eating papillion steak, the important thing is how to eat it, and how to eat it elegantly and pleasing to the eye. Bufang picked up the knife and fork on the plate. Blackie, tell me loudly. How do you use a knife and fork? Bufang said. Lord Go was stunned. Everyone froze. Eating this thing required a knife and fork? Why not directly use chopsticks? Such a big piece of meat, grabbing it with one's bare hands and biting it. How king satisfying would it be to eat it? He no longer paid attention to the crowd. Bufang sat on the chair with his back straight. His left hand held the knife, and his right hand held the fork. First, he used the knife to flatten the sauce on the papillion steak. Then, he began to search for the direction of the texture of the meat. The dragon meat itself had texture. Once he found the right direction, he wouldn't feel tired when cutting, and the taste of the meat would be better. Under everyone's curious gazes, Bufang held the fork and stabbed the papillion steak. His right hand held the knife, tilting it at a 30-degree angle as he slowly cut down along the texture. Following Bufang's cutting, everyone's mouth couldn't help but widen. It was as if they could hear the sound of the knife rubbing against the meat. After cutting off a piece of meat, Bufang used the fork to pick up the meat, sending it into his mouth. When this piece of meat entered his mouth, Bufang's brows instantly twitched. He chewed in an orderly manner. The moment his mouth closed, the meat juice in the papillion steak surged out. The meat juice in the dragon meat was perfectly sealed by Bufang. The medium-well papillion steak still retained the unique fresh and tender taste of the meat juice. It seemed to carry a little sweetness. The medium-well meat was incomparably soft and tender. When he gently bit down, that instant burst out a creamy taste, causing people to involuntarily narrow their eyes. With a gulp, Bufang swallowed the dragon meat in his mouth. That meat quickly slid down his throat and into his stomach. The unique spicy taste brought by the abyssal chili sauce made all the pores on Bufang's body open. The spicy taste made the fragrance of the meat even richer, making it even more fresh and refined. It made people feel that they wouldn't get sick of eating it. Picking up the Frost Blaze Path Understanding brew, he gently shook some of the ice crystal wine cup, and the wine inside made a splashing sound. Eating a mouthful of meat, drinking a mouthful of wine. When it entered the mouth, it was like frost. When it entered the throat, it was like a volcano erupting. The extreme experience brought by the Frost Blaze Path Understanding brew, coupled with this papillion steak, made Bufang enjoy it so much that he closed his eyes and gently exhaled. Then, he opened his eyes and continued to cut the meat. Hades Era and the others felt that Bufang's way of eating meat was very unique. They had never thought that one could actually use a knife and fork to eat meat. Moreover, King, it was really nice to eat. Compared to Bufang's way of eating meat, grabbing and biting the meat with one's bare hands was simply unbelievably crude. But cutting such a small piece of meat, how could one taste like a ball? Watching Bufang's knife cut down, and the scene of oil and meat juices spilling out, Hades Era and the others couldn't help but swallow their saliva. This feeling of watching others eat delicacies was simply too torturous. Gulp, Hades's stomach made a sound. He rubbed his stomach and took out a chili strip. At this time, only a chili strip could soothe his wounded heart. Holding a chili strip, he went in and out. This feeling made Hades temporarily forget the pain brought by the papillion steak. The others weren't so lucky. They could only stand there and watch Bufang eat. In a short while, a piece of papillion steak was finished. Holding the Frost Blaze Path Understanding brew, he slowly drank it. As the wine entered his mouth, it filled his stomach, making Bufang feel a sense of fullness. The meat was finished and the wine was finished. Bufang placed his knife and fork in a certain direction. Picking up a corner of a white cloth, he wiped his mouth. His elegant movements, the feeling of floating clouds and flowing water, made everyone stare in a daze. Saint Sovereign Tianji had a strange look on his face. Eating a meal required so much attention? Burp. Bufang burped, spitting out a bit of the fragrance of meat. Everyone looked at Bufang's appearance that deserved a beating. They really wanted to beat him up. Bufang brat. Lord Go will send you to heaven with one claw. Lord Go's gentle and magnetic voice contained a bit of anger. Hua, this girl, also glared at Bufang. Her hands were on her hips, glaring at Bufang. Yu's face was ice cold. Her jet-black hair moved on its own, and her eyes turned pitch-black. Bufang was very calm. He calmly looked at the group of people who were ready to beat him up, then let out a breath. A demon dragon's dragon ribs can be cut into 6 pieces of good quality dragon ribs. I've eaten one, so I'll leave the rest for you. If you want to eat more, you can continue to capture demon dragons, Bufang said. Everyone was stunned, then happy. Bufang was planning to make dragon ribs for them? That's not right. Hades Era held a chili strip in his mouth, carefully counting. There were a total of 6 people present, including that lazy dog. The remaining 5 dragon ribs, no matter what, were not enough then. Era looked at Saint Sovereign Tianji sympathetically. Old Mo, I sympathize with you. After all, you are not one of us. Luckily, that saintess of yours went to sleep. Otherwise, I's peace would be gone too. Hades covered his face with one hand, wanting to laugh out loud. Mo Tianji's face darkened. However, Bufang calmly glanced at Era. Weren't you eating the chili strip happily? Why are you eating dragon ribs? His laughter stopped. Chapter 852. Bufang's words caused the laughter in the restaurant to suddenly stop. Hades Era looked at Bufang with a dumbfounded expression. He seemed to not understand what Bufang said. What did he mean by he was enjoying the spicy gluten and wanted the papillion steak? He could not eat the papillion steak after eating the spicy gluten? Why couldn't he have both of them? Bufang, young man, don't try to fool I just because I'm handsome. We're all on the same side. No matter what, you have to leave a piece for I, right? Hades flicked his hair and said, No. Bufang shook his head. Ah, aren't you on the same side? Why don't you show off? Continue showing off. Emotianji couldn't help but laugh out loud. Looking at Nether King Ha's defeated appearance, he felt a wave of comfort in his heart. It was like the feeling of an ice-cold drink entering his mouth, instantly surging into his stomach. It was really delightful. In the restaurant, the sound of laughter once again lingered. This laughter caused Hades' expression to be a little awkward. A villain intoxicated by success. Hades was furious. Emotianji, who was watching the laughing Emotianji, wished he could use Hades's clothes-stripping finger to strip this smug fellow and throw him out. This seems to be a really good idea. Hades' eyes lit up. He instantly narrowed his eyes and looked at Emotianji. That gaze made Emotianji's hair stand on end. The laughter also naturally stopped. What do you want to do? In broad daylight, Owner Boo, let's talk about the papillion steak. Emotianji pursed his lips. He felt a little sullen. To think that he, a saint sovereign of the heavenly secret Holy Land, actually suffered countless losses in a restaurant. This was really too wronged. You don't have to laugh. Your papillion steak needs to be bought by yourself. Bufang looked at Emotianji lightly and said, Buy? What's the price? Emotianji was taken aback. Bufang didn't say anything. He just raised his hand and pointed at the menu on the wall. On it there was an additional dish, medium well papillion steak. Price 1 million yuan crystals. 1 million crystals. Emotianji looked at the price and his face fell. There was no expression on his face at all. 1 million yuan crystals just to eat a piece of meat? That was almost half the price of a small crystal mine. Spending half the price of a crystal mine to eat a piece of meat. Emotianji still felt somewhat pained in his heart. Ha. Who asked you to show off? Why don't you King keep laughing? Hades' also saw the price. He didn't have any concept of crystals, but he could see the pressure on Emotianji's face. Earlier, Emotianji's laughter had made him feel awkward. Now, he wanted to laugh back. This was called showing off for no more than 3 seconds. There would always be reincarnation. Smile? Wasn't it just 1 million crystals? I can still afford it. Emotianji glanced at Hades' Then, the corners of his mouth curled up, revealing a cold smile. As the heavenly secret Holy Land's Saint Sovereign, his status was noble. A mere 1 million crystals. He had to be ruthless. Okay, then you guys wait. Bufang glanced at the crowd. Then, he kept the tableware and turned to enter the kitchen. In a short while, the air was once again filled with the rich aroma of dragon meat. Everyone's mood was stirred up because they knew that the next papillion steak would truly belong to them. However, some people were happy while others were sad. Nether King Ha was the saddest one. Just because he ate a spicy strip, he was rejected by Bufang as one of his people. This young man was really getting more and more mischievous. However, this smell was really fragrant. Hades' mouth twitched. He smelled the aroma in the air. He really couldn't bear it. Soon, in the kitchen, a slender and thin figure slowly walked out. He was holding a covered dish in his hand. Placing the dish on the table, Bufang looked at the crowd and signaled them to distribute it. Then, he turned around and returned to the restaurant to continue cooking. Everyone looked at each other. Who should they give the first papillion steak to? Emotianji actually wanted it. After all, he had spent money, so he should have some privileges. However, he always thought too much. Just as he stretched out his hand, Lord Go's furry dog paw instantly pressed on the cover. Emotionji froze. Lord Go's dog eyes glanced at Emotionji, causing Emotionji's entire body to turn cold. F***ck. This dog. Shameless. Lord Go first. Black's gentle and magnetic voice rang out. Emotionji was unwilling, but he didn't dare. After all, the guy in front of him was Lord Go. In the legends, he was even more awesome than Hades' era. Fight. He definitely couldn't beat him. Hence, Emotionji could only be wronged and forced under Lord Go's pressure. Lord Go's furry dog paw patted, and instantly, the cover was slapped open. The aroma of the papillion steak spread out, causing Lord Go's saliva to drip out of his mouth. Clang! Lord Go fiddled with the knife and fork, and his dog mouth instantly twitched. With his exquisite dog paw, he couldn't use this thing at all. Bufong, this kid must be doing this on purpose. Eating a papillion steak would still be elegant. Could elegance be eaten? Lord Go's paw pulled, pushing the knife and fork to the side. Then, he opened his mouth and started to chew on the papillion steak. The dog's mouth kept biting. The taste of the papillion steak entered his mouth, causing Lord Go's dog eyes to become brighter and brighter. When the others saw this, they couldn't help but swallow their saliva. It was really very fragrant. Emotionji felt his heart twitching as he watched a dog tearing at a piece of meat that he had spent 1,000,000 origin crystals to buy without any scruples. He truly felt as if a piece of meat had been bitten off by a dog. It was so painful that tears almost fell from his eyes. What a reckless waste of resources! Hades' era looked at Lord Go eating so happily, and his heart was filled with envy and jealousy. He was the one who caught the ingredients, but in the end, he didn't even eat a single bite. This lazy dog didn't do anything, and only ate a piece of meat. So unfair. Hades' era was so angry. Suddenly, his eyes suddenly lit up. Since this ingredient was found by him, then wouldn't it be fine if he caught a few more papillions? Hades' era was really excited about his wit. In the next instant, he looked deeply at the papillion steak that was being bitten in Lord Go's mouth. Then, he turned around, his long hair fluttering as he left. At the same time, Bufong also brought out the plates of papillion steak from the kitchen. In total, there were 6 plates. He ate one himself, and the remaining 5 were divided among the 5 fellows. You, Lord Go, Hua, Chu Chongxing, and the Heavenly Secret Saint Sovereign in front of him. Of course, the Heavenly Secret Saint Sovereign's piece of meat was bought with crystals. Bufong also poured a cup of Frost Blaze Path Understanding brew for each of them. This made Emotionji excited for a while. Good wine with good meat. After Emotionji ate it, he was instantly shocked. His entire person was immersed in the delicious meat juice. A rumbling sound rang out in the void. A voice could be heard coming from the distance. Outside the Valley of Gluttony, hundreds of miles away, a majestic city stood. The city was in ruins, and the city walls had collapsed. The flames of war reached the sky, and black smoke billowed. In the city, many netherworld creatures were killing, and blood splattered everywhere. These creatures were the army from the ruined prison. They attacked the city and plundered the land, causing the city to be engulfed in the flames of war. There were many casualties. The demons roared excitedly, continuously killing the natives of the hidden dragon continent. In the sky, there was a huge demonic dragon flapping its wings. Other than being responsible for transporting the dragon eggs and growing the mandala tree, the demon dragon was also responsible for attacking the city. Such a huge demon dragon's combat power was extremely terrifying. Basically, it was invincible when attacking the city. Roar. The papillion flapped its wings, and the dragon's roar resounded through the entire city. The city was filled with cries and screams. The ruined prison army massacred wantonly, as though they wanted to turn this city into a dead city. Suddenly, in the void, a figure flew over at high speed. Suddenly, he floated in the air. This was a man with shiny black hair. His face was handsome, but he revealed a faint melancholy. He floated above the city, and his gaze turned. In the end, it landed on the huge papillion in the void. Finally found it. Those fellows from the ruined prison do have some tricks. They actually thought of using the papillion to bring the papillion eggs to grow the mandala tree, using the mandala tree to coerce the ruined prison army. Hades' era clasped his hands, looking at the city that had turned into ruins. He gently sighed. His gaze was complicated as he looked around. This was a calamity for the hidden dragon continent. He shouldn't interfere too much. This time, his goal for coming here was the papillion. Other matters had nothing to do with him. Thus, Hades' era only floated in front of the papillion. The papillion looked at the small voice in front of it, opening its mouth and letting out an ear-piercing dragon roar. The roar brought along a gale, whistling and blowing Hades' hair. Hades indifferently looked at the papillion. In the next instant, his figure disappeared from his original spot, as though he had teleported. When he reappeared, he stood on the papillion's head. A wave of terrifying pressure instantly emitted from Hades' body. That papillion couldn't even move. If Hades hadn't restrained some of his pressure, this stupid dragon would have been so scared that it would have directly fallen from the sky. Be good. I will take you to eat something good, Hades' era gently said as he patted the papillion's head. The papillion was stunned. In the next instant, the void was torn apart. The papillion and Hades' era's figures instantly stepped into it, disappearing. The ruined prison army was instantly stunned, as though they didn't understand why the papillion had disappeared. However, even without the papillion, the battle still hadn't ended. Battle cries shook the sky. Everywhere in the entire continent, such a terrifying battle was erupting. Bufong pulled a chair, curling up in front of the door. Outside the door, blood-colored snowflakes fell from the sky like goose feathers, swaying as they landed on the ground, covering the ground with a layer of cotton. Within the restaurant, the sound of knives and plates colliding resounded unceasingly. Under Bufong's careful guidance, everyone finally learned how to use knives and forks. Other than Lord Go, who didn't have the right conditions, the others all used knives and forks to eat. Suddenly, the void not far from the door of the restaurant was torn apart. Instantly, a huge figure stepped out from within. It was the papillion that Bufong had seen in the morning. However, the one in the morning was dead, while this one was alive. Hades' era jumped down from the papillion's head, landing in front of the restaurant, looking at Bufong. Bufong, young man, I have brought ingredients back. This time, it should be I's share. Hades' era said excitedly. In the restaurant, Saint Sovereign Tianji was instantly affected by the commotion outside the door. He turned his head to look and saw the huge demon dragon. Saint Sovereign Tianji was bewildered. What? This dragon meat was actually the dragon meat of the one in front of him. Isn't this the demon dragon that attacked the continent from the ruined prison? Turns out that the thing he was eating with relish was actually a creature from the ruined prison. This is so King satisfying. This lord was wondering why it was so delicious. Today, it was because of these demon dragons that the continent was in deep water and scorching fire. Now that he could personally eat this demon dragon meat, Mo Tianji was indescribably excited. After eating, Mo Tianji put down his knife and fork, wiping his mouth in excitement. Ownerbu, give me another portion of papillion steak. *CK. This lord wants to eat all of these invaders from the ruined prison. At the same time, Heavenly Spring Holy Land, a handsome man with a head full of purple hair stood on a spirit boat. That spirit boat soared into the sky, emitting a dazzling light. In the next instant, it tore the void, speeding toward the Valley of Gluttony. Chapter 853. Hades' era finally got his wish to eat the papillion steak. When the abyssal chili sauce-flavored papillion steak entered his mouth, Hades' era felt as though all the pores on his body had slightly shrunk. That feeling made him involuntarily squint his eyes. It was a kind of happiness that came from being conquered by delicious food. After finishing the papillion steak, he placed the knife and fork on the plate. Hades's body leaned back, leaning against the chair. His mouth involuntarily opened, spitting out a mouthful of white gas, letting out a soft moan. Oh! Bufang, on the other hand, curled up in front of the door, feeling the snow. The heavenly secret Saint Sovereign had left. After eating the papillion steak, he was much more satisfied. He needed to return to the heavenly secret Holy Land. The current hidden dragon continent was not peaceful, and he was afraid that if he left for too long, something bad would happen. After Lord Go ate and drank his fill, he also returned to the Path Understanding tree, sleeping soundly under it. Hua sat beside Lord Go, quietly cultivating. Yu sat on the netherworld ship, swinging her legs. Chu Chongxing was the same as Bufang, pulling out a chair and sitting beside Bufang, watching the flowers bloom and wilt together. Everything became quiet and tranquil. The restaurant's business continued. At the entrance of the Valley of Gluttony the void was torn apart, and a small boat slowly moved, floating out of the void. A handsome man wearing a purple robe, with a head full of purple hair, stood on the small boat. His gaze was like a torch, as though it could pierce through the void, looking straight at the Valley of Gluttony. This was his second time coming to the Valley of Gluttony. The first time it was his clone. However, that clone was defeated. This time, he still came with a purpose. However, this time, his purpose was very different from before. Previously, he hoped to borrow the inheritance of the Valley of Gluttony to advance further. Unfortunately, he missed that inheritance, causing him to not advance further before the Heaven Pass tribulation. But now, he no longer needed it. Amethyst Elder raised his hand and looked at the eye that was rolling around in his palm. His brows furrowed. I can feel it. The heavenly star-catcher disk's aura is in this Valley of Gluttony. Hurry up and destroy him. The devilish eye blinked and let out an impatient, hoarse voice. What's the rush? Take your time. Amethyst Elder indifferently looked at the demon eye in his palm. Then, he closed his palm, causing the demon eye to lose its voice. The group of people from the Holy Land had their clothes ripped off in the Valley of Gluttony. Amethyst Elder naturally knew about this. Anything related to the Valley of Gluttony, he would always pay attention to it. He had shouted to kill all the netherworld creatures on the continent, causing the experts of the Holy Lands to crazily slaughter the netherworld creatures on the continent. However, he had never thought that they would be defeated in the Valley of Gluttony. There was a restaurant in the Valley of Gluttony with netherworld creatures. To be able to strip all of his subordinates naked and throw them out, this was enough to prove that this was extraordinary. It should be known that among his subordinates, there was a sect master-level existence. A sect master-level existence was an expert that had already ignited his divine flame. Although that sect master had only ignited one divine flame, in the Valley of Gluttony, he should have been invincible. However, in the end, he had awkwardly returned naked. Hence, Amethyst Elder became very cautious about this matter. He slowly walked down the boat, clasping his hands behind his back as he walked toward the Valley of Gluttony. However, although he was a little afraid of that netherworld creature, with his status and power, coming to the Valley of Gluttony, he should be respected. As for the guards in front of the city gates who were shouting to stop him, Amethyst Elder waved his hand. Purple true energy instantly spread out, causing these guards to be blown away and heavily injured. Although he did not kill anyone, those who dared to offend him were all heavily injured. After fusing with the demon eye, Amethyst Elder felt that his temper had become even more irritable. There was always a faint murderous aura gathering in his heart. Anai Yen woke up. She opened her eyes and rubbed her dizzy head, crawling up from the bed. She felt as though her head was about to explode, as though it was filled with lead. Walking out of the room, she walked down the stairs. These few days, she had already gotten used to this state. Every day, she would sleep for at least 14 to 16 hours. After waking up for the rest of the time, she would continue sleeping. Because of the star energy, Yen had become very sleepy. Walking into the restaurant after greeting Bufang, she habitually pulled out a chair and sat beside Bufang. Bufang turned his head, calmly looking at Yan's beautiful face, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but rise. "Did you remember anything about the heavenly star catcher disc today?" asked Bufang. Yen shook her head, indicating that she did not remember anything. Her mind did not have any clues. This made Bufang a little anxious. It had been so long, and he did not know when Yen would remember anything about the heavenly star catcher disc. "System, do you have any way to make this woman remember how to use the heavenly star catcher disc quickly?" Bufang quietly asked the system in his mind. According to the system's character, it should have some way. Indeed, the system was silent for a long time, and it did not say anything. Bufang's heart was instantly filled with joy. The system did not immediately reject him, which meant that there was still a way. The heavenly star catcher disc's energy has sealed this woman's memory. If you want to break the seal, you must first start from her memory. Breaking it from the memory can awaken this woman's control of the heavenly star catcher disc. The system's serious voice rang out. Bufang slightly narrowed his eyes. Starting from the memory. How should he start? Suddenly, the system's voice rang out, making Bufang completely dumbstruck. Temporary mission issued. Help Yen walk the memory path and control the heavenly star catcher disc. Mission reward. A branch's permanent transportation door, a fragment of the God of Cooking set. It issued a temporary mission just like that? Bufang was a little confused. Why did it suddenly issue a temporary mission? Moreover, this temporary mission was a little strange. Help Yen control the heavenly star catcher disc and walk the memory path? This mission made Bufang a little confused. However, Bufang quickly figured out the crux of the matter. The system wanted him to help Yen control the heavenly star catcher disc. In order to control the heavenly star catcher disc, he had to start from Yen's memory. He had to stimulate her memory and release the power of the stars. Bufang rubbed his chin, looking at Yen. Of course, other than the mission, Bufang was also interested in the mission's reward. A branch's permanent transportation door. What did this mean? Bufang currently had a total of 3 restaurants. One was in the southern region, Fong Fong's little store in the Light Wind Empire. The other was in the Pill Palace, Heavenly Mist City's Cloud Mist Restaurant. The last one was currently in the Valley of Gluttony, Taotai Restaurant. The 3 branches operated together, providing business for Bufang to increase his cultivation. A branch's permanent transportation door. Did this mean that with this transportation door, he could easily travel between the branches? This was quite convenient. System notification. The temporary mission will start in an hour. Host, please prepare. The system seriously said. Bufang was stunned once again. The temporary mission would start in an hour? Why was it so rushed? What the hell was the system doing? Bufang was a little bewildered. He stood up from his chair, and after understanding the system for a while, he let out a sigh of relief. This time's temporary mission made Bufang a little excited. Because this time's temporary mission required Bufang to bring Yen back to the Light Wind Empire. The Light Wind Empire. Bufang felt that it was a distant memory. Many people and things seemed to have become a little fuzzy in his memory. After all, Bufang's mind only had cooking all day, so it was normal for his memory to be a little fuzzy. Bufang was a little excited. He didn't know what level his 2 chef apprentices had reached. Under normal circumstances, they shouldn't be any weaker than when he left the Light Wind Empire, right? Xiao Xiaolong and Serpent Woman Yu Fu were both quite talented in cooking. With these expectations, Bufang stood up with a little excitement. He chased Hades Era, who was sitting there leisurely to digest his food, out of the restaurant. With a bang, he closed the restaurant's door. Chu Chongqing was stunned. Owner Bu, Why did you close the restaurant so early today? Chu Chongqing asked curiously. However, Bu Fong didn't answer him. He just turned around and patted an Yan's shoulder, then pulled her up. Under Chu Chongqing's cold gaze, they walked upstairs. Chu Chongqing suddenly understood, and a mischievous look appeared in his eyes. Owner Bu was really impatient, and Yan looked as if she hadn't woken up yet. She was pulled by Bu Fong, and they went straight back to the room. As soon as they got into the room, an Yan lay on the bed. Bu Fong looked at the lazy an Yan, and he couldn't help but twitch his mouth. He pulled her up from the bed, held an Yan's shoulder, and said, "Wake up. I'll take you to a place." "Where are we going?" An Yan's face was full of confusion. All of a sudden, her half-closed eyes slightly shrank. This was because she saw streaks of resplendent white light floating in the air, those light dots condensed in the void. This time, they didn't turn into a teleportation array. Instead, they piled up and turned into a white door of light. There was even a handle on the door of light. Bu Fong was also bewildered. Was this the teleportation door between the branches that the system had mentioned? It seemed to be very impressive. Since it was a teleportation door, did it mean that the other side of the door was the Light Wind Empire's Fong's little store? If that was the case, then it would be much more convenient. And Yan woke up, and she looked at Bu Fong, as if she didn't understand where Bu Fong wanted to take her. Bu Fong didn't say, and she didn't ask either. In the next instant, Bu Fong walked in front of the door of light. With a creaking sound, the handle of the door of light was twisted open. Bu Fong used a little force, and the door of light was pushed open. Inside the door of light, it was pitch black, as if it was a black hole. It was filled with the unknown black hole. Bu Fong looked at an Yan, and without saying anything, he took the lead and stepped into the door. An Yan hesitated for a moment, then followed Bu Fong's footsteps, stepping into the black hole. Even she didn't know where this black hole led to. The two of them entered. With a creaking sound, the door of light suddenly closed, and with a bang, it turned into a sky full of light dots and scattered. The sound of creaking rang out. Amethyst Elder clasped his hands, stepping on the snow-covered road. On both sides of the long street, the aroma of food wafted in the air, and all kinds of shouts rang out unceasingly. Even though it was a snowy day, the restaurants in the Valley of Gluttony were still bustling with activity. Suddenly, Amethyst Elder's footsteps paused, and his arm began to heat up. He raised his hand. The closed eye on his palm suddenly opened, letting out a ferocious roar. The aura of the heavenly star-catcher disc disappeared. Damn it! Why did it disappear? Disappeared? Didn't you say it was in the Valley of Gluttony? Amethyst Elder frowned. It's not here anymore. Just a moment ago, it disappeared without a trace. Hurry up and go over. The demon eye roared. Amethyst Elder frowned, but he didn't say anything. Instead, he raised his head, looking into the distance. Over there, two figures were slowly approaching in the swirling snow. Those two figures. He was familiar with them. One was a handsome youth, and the other was Amethyst Elder's precious daughter. Amethyst Elder narrowed his eyes and his palm closed. He didn't care about the demon eye's roar, quietly standing on the spot, waiting for the two people to slowly approach. Chapter 854. Amethyst Elder's eyes narrowed slightly as he looked at the two figures walking over from the snowstorm in the distance. Hades Era clasped his hands in satisfaction, walking slowly. His thick black hair was stained with snow. After eating the spicy strip and the delicious medium well papillion steak, he was very satisfied. Saint Daughter Ziyun followed behind him, squinting her eyes. Seeing Hades so happy, she was happy too. All of a sudden, her steps halted, and her eyes shrank. She couldn't help but look into the distance. There, a figure with purple hair stood in the snowstorm. Saint Daughter Ziyun's body couldn't help but tremble when she saw that familiar figure. Her eyes were filled with a panicked expression. Father, Saint Daughter Ziyun's eyes moved around. She didn't dare to look at the imposing Amethyst Elder. Amethyst Elder had finally come? As someone who had sneaked out of the Holy Land, Saint Daughter Ziyun had complicated feelings. She was a little afraid of Amethyst Elder because she knew that as soon as he appeared, she would have to return to the Holy Land. She didn't want to leave. Her days in the Valley of Gluttony were free and happy. Most importantly, she had her handsome, enchanting big brother Ha. Once she returned to the Heavenly Spring Holy Land, she would never see Era again. She couldn't bear this kind of grievance. Amethyst Elder clasped his hands, looking at Saint Daughter Ziyun coldly. His eyes were filled with dignity. "You still know that I'm your father. You've been away for so many days. Don't you miss home at all?" Amethyst Elder said indifferently. His voice carried a wave of anger that made Saint Daughter Ziyun's heart jump. Without waiting for Saint Daughter Ziyun's reply, Amethyst Elder's eyes turned, landing on Hades Era, who was by Ziyun's side. His eyes narrowed, as if he wanted to see through Hades Era. "You're the one who kidnapped my daughter?" Amethyst Elder asked. An oppressive aura spread out from his body, causing the snow and wind that filled the sky to seem to freeze at this moment. Hades Era had never thought that he would meet such a man on the road. That man seemed to be the father of this little follower. Thank the heavens! Was he finally going to take this little tail away from his side? Inexplicably, Hades Era was a little excited. "Little Z, your dad is calling you home for dinner." Nether King Ha turned his head and shouted at Saint Daughter Ziyun, whose face was filled with fear. Ziyun glared at Hades Era. "Brother Ha, shut up, don't talk." Hades suddenly smacked his lips. This little Z was really hot-tempered. "Forget it, I won't lower myself to her level." Amethyst Elder's nostrils flared, and white gas was continuously exhaled from his nostrils. He was truly enraged. His palms were clenched into fists, and blue veins could be seen on his fists. This girl was actually flirting with a stranger in front of him. Did he really think that his father was just a decoration? It seemed that after not seeing him for so long, this girl was going to ascend to the heavens. The flame of anger in his heart surged, making the way Amethyst Elder looked at Hades Era became even more unfriendly. This guy. Don't think that just because he has a delicate face, he can deceive a little girl who doesn't know the ways of the world. He must let Zier know this guy's true colors. "Zier, come here. Come back with your father to the Holy Land. Your mother misses you a lot," Amethyst Elder said. Saint Daughter Ziyun's mouth was trembling. She took a step back and pulled on Hades Era's clothes, saying, "Brother Ha, I won't go." Hades Era furrowed his brows, trying to persuade Ziyun. "That's not right. Little Z, your mother is calling you home for dinner. You can't refuse." Saint Daughter Ziyun really wanted to take a brick and smash it on Hades Era's head. Was this guy's brain filled with spicy strips? Amethyst Elder was so angry that he laughed. This kid had spoken twice, and it seemed that he didn't like Ziyun. He didn't expect that his daughter would be despised by someone else. This kid. Did he want to die? "Even if no one wants my daughter, I won't allow you to despise her. Zier, go back with your father," Amethyst Elder shouted. His voice was like thunder, causing the blood snow in the sky to explode. Ziyun was shocked, looking at Amethyst Elder in fear. I won't go back with you." Ziyun took a step back, her face resolute. It was the first time Hades Era saw this girl act like that. He raised his brows, looking at Amethyst Elder. "All right, Zier doesn't want to go back. Don't force her. Let's talk nicely." "Who do you think you are? Is it your turn to talk? We'll settle our debts later. Not everyone has the right to bully my daughter." Amethyst Elder coldly looked at Hades Era. In the next instant, he waved his hand, and a wave of terrifying energy surged toward Hades Era. The blood snow on the ground exploded, as though it wanted to give Hades Era a show of strength. Hades's eyes narrowed and the corners of his mouth rose. Raising his hand, He stretched out a finger and gently touched the energy wave. Instantly, the energy wave that Amethyst Elder had sent out collapsed. "You young man, you really have a bad temper. I bully people whenever I want to. Do you think it's your turn to teach me? Who do you think you are?" Hades Era waved his hand, patting the robe on his body. His eyes were full of melancholy. "You bullied my daughter, and you still dare to retaliate. How dare you?" Amethyst Elder was enraged. He roared, and his imposing aura expanded. He took a step forward, and in that instant, it was as though the ground had shrunk to an inch. His figure was as fast as lightning, closing the distance between them, appearing in front of Hades. Their gazes collided fiercely. Their hair fluttered. Amethyst Elder raised his hand, aiming a slap at Hades's head. As Amethyst Elder, his status was noble. Naturally, he had his own way of dealing with enemies. He wanted Ziyun to see the other party's weakness. He wanted her to know that the person she had chosen was wrong. However, in the end, his slap did not land. That was because Hades Era raised his hand, gently patting Amethyst Elder's slap away. Amethyst Elder was stunned. In the next instant, his eyes shrank. To be able to easily deflect his slap. Without a doubt, this kid's cultivation base was high. However, don't think that you could flirt with Amethyst Elder's daughter just because you have a high cultivation base. His aura exploded again, and he punched at Hades Era. This time, Hades Era did not hold back. A black gas gushed out, twining around Hades's arm. A wave of energy shook, sending Amethyst Elder flying far away. Saint Daughter Ziyun instantly bit her lips, her face filled with a complicated expression. Amethyst Elder slowly raised his head, his eyes filled with a murderous aura. This kid was actually a creature of the Netherworld. Amethyst Elder's daughter was actually together with a creature of the Netherworld? This was something that could not be allowed. Buzz on his arm, energy appeared. Amethyst Elder raised his head, his aura exploding. Hades Era's eyes suddenly focused, looking at Amethyst Elder's arm suspiciously. A young man like you actually has the aura of the Netherworld? You're from the Netherworld? Creak, it was like a door that had been closed for a long time suddenly being opened. The creaking sound was a little sharp, piercing people's eardrums. The door was pushed open, and a tall and thin figure walked out from behind the door. Behind that slender figure was a graceful figure. That curvaceous body was full of temptation. The same bed, the same window, the same bathroom. Nothing had changed. Bufang and Eniyen stood in the room. The atmosphere seemed to have become a little awkward. Bufang, are you playing a game with me? Going through the door and returning to the same place? Eniyen lazily raised her eyes, looking at Bufang as she spoke. Bufang looked at this woman, the corners of his mouth twitching. He did not say anything as he opened the door and walked out. Eniyen froze, then carefully looked around the room. Although the room was still spotless, Eniyen's eyes shrank because she found something different. This was not the room they had been in before. It was because the bed in the previous room was not folded neatly because she had been lazing in bed. However, the bed in front of her was very neat. What did this mean? It meant that they had come to another place. How could there be a room like this? He was stunned for a moment. Then, he sucked in a breath of cold air. His drowsiness also became a lot clearer, which was rare for him. She hurriedly turned around, following Bufang's figure down. Tap tap. The staircase was very dark. However, the deeper she went, the more she felt a familiar aura. This wasn't the Valley of Gluttony. The spiritual energy in the air suddenly decreased, not as surging as it was in the Taotai restaurant. However, Eniyen didn't care about that. She came to the staircase and saw Bufang turning around to enter the kitchen. She wanted to go in too. However, when she remembered the purple lightning that flashed in the kitchen the last time she touched it, she felt a little guilty. Thus, she did not follow Bufang in. Instead, she turned around and walked out of the restaurant. When she arrived at the restaurant, the familiar furnishings made her a little confused. There was no Chu Chongqing, no 9 stripes path understanding tree, no black dog lying under the tree, and no netherworld ship. This wasn't the Taotai restaurant in the Valley of Gluttony. She lifted her head and looked at the menu on the wall. The familiar names of the dishes on the menu made Ni Yan's pupils shrink again. A sense of familiarity suddenly burst forth in her heart. It was a very familiar feeling. In the kitchen, Bu Fong frowned. He clasped his hands, walking one round in the kitchen. The kitchen was very quiet. Xiao Xiaolong was not there, which made Bu Fong a little suspicious. It shouldn't be. At this time, the restaurant should be open. How could it operate without a chef? Bu Fong remembered that among his 2 apprentices, only Xiao Xiaolong was still in the restaurant. As for Yu Fu, she was practicing her culinary skills in the Serpentine Imperial Palace. After all, if Bu Fong wasn't wrong, Yu Fu should be the Serpentine sovereign of the Serpentine tribe. The kitchen was decorated the same as the other branches. However, since it was the first restaurant Bu Fong stayed in, the air seemed to be filled with a familiar smell. That smell made Bu Fong squint. He really enjoyed this feeling. Walking out of the kitchen, he entered the restaurant. Indeed, the restaurant's door was tightly shut. Ni Yen pulled out a chair and sat down. She propped her chin on her hand, revealing her exquisite face. Her eyes were slightly closed, and she seemed a little sleepy. The sound of Bu Fong walking out didn't wake her up. Of course, Bu Fong wouldn't let her continue sleeping. When he passed by Ni Yen, he raised his hand and gently patted her head. Ni Yen was startled awake. She glared at Bu Fong with an angry gaze. However, Bu Fong just raised his brows at Ni Yen. Then, he walked to the door and opened it. As soon as the door was opened, light shone in from the outside. A wave of cold air was like a loach, entering through the open door. Bu Fong gently exhaled. He narrowed his eyes and looked outside the open door. What he saw caused his pupils to shrink slightly. Chapter 855. As the chill seeped into Bu Fong's body trembled slightly. White snow fluttered in the air, and the cold wind blew in from outside the door. It was a white and misty scene outside. However, when Bu Fong's eyes focused, he looked over and saw many gazes landing on him. These gazes were filled with astonishment. Bu Fong slightly furrowed his brows. He opened the door completely, then strode toward the outside. Stepping on the thick layer of snow, Bu Fong took a step forward. Half of his foot was submerged in the snow, and a bone-chilling feeling instantly spread from his thigh to his entire body. Swish, the snow in front of Fong Fong's little store was very thick, as if no one had stepped in for a long time. This made Bu Fong a little suspicious. With Fong Fong's little store's reputation in the Light Wind Imperial City, how could no one come? Before Bu Fong left, Fong Fong's little store could be said to be as crowded as a marketplace, and the queue could stretch from the alley to the Light Wind Imperial City's gate. That kind of liveliness was definitely not something an ordinary restaurant could compare to. After all, Fong Fong's little store's status in the Light Wind Imperial City was incomparable. Could it be that something had happened? Bu Fong furrowed his brows, and many gazes swept over, landing on Bu Fong's figure, who had opened the door and stepped on the snow. After the astonishment, these gazes turned into ecstasy. Boom! Boom! Snowflakes rustled in the air, and the owners of those gazes quickly rushed toward Bu Fong. "This restaurant, which I couldn't enter, is finally open," a hoarse voice rang out, and then a wave of pitch-black nether energy surged. Many black shadows, treading on the snow, came over without leaving a trace. Bu Fong slightly froze and his eyes focused. Sweeping his gaze over, he found these figures. With a glance, his brows furrowed even more. These fellows weren't people that Bu Fong was familiar with in the Light Wind Empire's capital. Instead, they were all extremely unfamiliar figures. Those silhouettes were donned in armor with ferocious expressions. Their skin was green and the auras coming from them were extremely powerful. Every single one of them had reached the 9th grade sovereign realm. So many 9th grade supreme martial artists. One had to know that this was the Light Wind Empire's capital, not the Valley of Gluttony, nor the Royal Court's Holy Land. In this place, a 9th grade supreme being could already be considered a peak existence. But there were so many 9th grade supreme martial artists, even if Bufang used his toes to think, he would still understand that the Light Wind Imperial City must have undergone a great change. He thought about how Mo Tianji often talked about the changes in the heavens. Could it be that even the remote Light Wind Empire was affected by this change? I didn't expect there to be someone in this house. Capture this guy. Dedicate it to the leader. Snowflakes danced in the air. A clanging sound was heard. Saber light and sword shadows flashed in an instant. These supreme martial artists all rushed toward Bufang. In reality, these 9th grade supreme martial artists didn't care about Bufang at all. It was really because this empire was too backward. The strongest combat power was only at the 9th grade supreme martial artist level, which was like an ant to them. Taking down this city didn't take any effort at all. Therefore, they didn't care about this young man in front of them at all. Inside Fong Fong's restaurant, Ai Yen rubbed her eyes and slowly walked out. She leaned against the door, as if she didn't understand why it was so noisy outside. The moment Ai Yen appeared, she was discovered by those 9th grade supreme martial artists. The eyes of these 9th grade supreme martial artists instantly turned red. There's actually a beauty here. Too beautiful. She's even more beautiful than the ones we caught before. If we hand her over to the leader, she will definitely be a top-grade delicacy. These 9th grade supreme martial artists opened their mouths, revealing their sharp fangs. Everyone's eyes were bursting with excitement. Some of them stared at Ai Yen, saliva dripping down from their mouth. It was as if they were looking at a top-grade delicacy. To this, Bufang's brows furrowed even tighter. From the words of these monsters, Bufang seemed to hear something bad. It seemed like he needed to interrogate them properly. Rip! The sound of something tearing through the air rang out as a sharp, saw-toothed broadsword slashed down at Bufang's head at lightning speed. It seemed like it wanted to cut Bufang into two halves. The visual effect of that broadsword was very shocking. If one was really cut by it, even if he didn't die, he would be seriously injured. However, Bufang didn't seem to care about these broadswords at all. He clasped his hands, slowly walking out, accompanied by the crunching sound of the snow. Buzz in his spirit sea, mental energy surged out violently. In the next instant, the broadswords that were slashing toward his head all stopped. Bufang's true energy cultivation was at the divine soul realm with a one-step soul ladder. However, his mental energy cultivation had long surpassed his true energy cultivation by many-fold. His mental energy cultivation was very strong. After all, Bufang's spirit sea was surging. As his mental energy was released, everyone's body seemed to be frozen in the void, unable to move at all. Some people jumped up, waving their broadswords. Their faces were ferocious. However, as they floated in the air, their ferocious faces froze. Some people knelt on one knee, holding a broadsword, intending to stab Bufang's stomach. As they moved, the white snow on the ground froze in the void. Everything seemed to be frozen. Ai Yen, who was leaning against the door, narrowed her eyes. This move of Bufang's made her feel frightened. It turned out that Owner Bu's cultivation was so strong. How strong was his mental energy to be able to do that? Bufang clasped his hands, leisurely stepping on the snow. He walked in front of a figure. That person's skin was green. His eyes were black, but his pupils were orange-yellow. He had a long, sharp horn on his forehead. His face was ferocious, and he wore a black armor. His aura was like a rainbow. However, at this moment, that person was frozen in the void, unable to move. With his hands clasped behind his back, Bufang walked up to the figure and looked at him indifferently. He raised his hand, and a dark gold flame emerged in his palm. After learning the fire control technique, Bufang's control of the heaven and earth obsidian flame had reached a very skillful level. In fact, Bufang didn't need to use his mouth to summon the heaven and earth obsidian flame. However, the heaven and earth obsidian flame's power was the strongest. The flame burned fiercely, and the temperature rose in just a blink of an eye. The green-skinned expert in front of him was finally able to speak. "Tell me, who are you people?" The dark gold flame on Bufang's finger danced, shining on his face, making him look even more serious. "You lowly ant. We are the demon scorpion race from the ruined prison. If you know what's good for you, let us go. Otherwise, when the 4 great generals and the chief find out, you will be torn into pieces." That expert opened his mouth, roaring. Were they the invaders from the ruined prison? Mo Yi, Mo Sa, and the others were also invaders from the ruined prison. However, compared to Mo Yi and Mo Sa, these fellows in front of them were too weak. "Where's the chef in this restaurant? And the waitress?" Bufang continued to ask. Of course, the chef was Xiao Xiaolong, and the waitress was Ouyang Xiaoi. He hadn't seen that little girl for a long time. Perhaps she had grown up. The chef of this restaurant? Mwahaha, I have to say that the dishes cooked by the chef in this restaurant are really good. The great general favors him a lot, so he brought him back to be his personal chef. That expert from the ruined prison sneered. His personal chef? Bufang's brows furrowed. His terrifying mental energy surged, causing that expert's body to tremble. Xiao Xiaolong was the chef of Fong Fong's little store. It was impossible for them to capture him. Although Bufang wasn't in Fong Fong's little store, the store's defense was still there. The system wouldn't allow Xiao Xiaolong to be captured. Since Xiao Xiaolong was captured, the only reason was that he left the restaurant, which was why he was attacked. There were many ways to make Xiao Xiaolong leave the restaurant. After all, it wasn't hard to find out that Xiao Xiaolong was the young master of the Xiao family. If those experts from the ruined prison couldn't attack, they could use the Xiao family to threaten them. Phew! Bufang gently exhaled, his eyes becoming colder. "What about the waitress?" Bufang asked. "Waitress? You mean that tender little girl? Mwahaha! The great leader took her away. The great leader loves those tender human women the most. They taste good and are absolutely delicious. Our ruined prison chefs are top-notch when it comes to cooking these women." That expert grinned, narrowing his eyes as he looked at Bufang. He seemed to feel the anger rising from Bufang's body. As he spoke, the expert became even more complacent. The dark gold heaven and earth obsidian flame in Bufang's hand danced unceasingly. All of a sudden, that expert's eyes widened, revealing a crazed smile. "You still want to find that little girl? I'm afraid that woman has already become the great leader's meal." Mwahaha! Foolish human! Die! That expert's body suddenly emitted a wave of energy. Then, from behind him, a scorpion tail shot out like a chain, piercing toward Bufang's head. Its speed was so fast that ordinary people couldn't even catch its speed. This was the demon scorpion race's sure-kill attack. It was a necessary sneak attack to deal with an enemy that they couldn't match. If this attack hit, even a divine physique echelon expert who had broken through the shackles would have to bear a grudge. It wasn't because of the piercing power of this attack, but because of the terrifying poison on the scorpion tail. That poison, as long as one touched it, one would die. The demon scorpion race's expert felt the pressure from Bufang's body. He knew that he couldn't defeat Bufang, so he used words to provoke Bufang. Then, he looked for a chance to kill him in one strike. He had used this trick to kill many human experts who were stronger than him. Those foolish humans were like stupid pigs, falling for it every time. The scorpion tail was fast, but in Bufang's eyes it was so slow. Bufang stretched out his arm, which was wrapped in bandages, and grabbed the scorpion's tail. Mwahaha! Foolish human who doesn't know life from death. Die! The demon scorpion race's expert roared. A moment later, the scorpion tail turned, stabbing Bufang's palm. A majestic purple-black venom gushed out. Chapter 856. Massive amounts of purple venom gushed out instantly. The ruined prison expert wore a crazy smile on his face. It was because he realized that the human didn't choose to dodge his venom. He didn't dodge. If he didn't dodge, then he would die. Although the demon scorpion race's venom wasn't considered the top in the ruined prison, in the hidden dragon continent, it was absolutely invincible. Very soon, he would be able to personally witness this human struggling under his venom and being corroded to death by his venom. This human was asking for it. He had used this venom to kill an existence at the peak of the divine physique echelon realm. Even if the other's divine physique was at the top level, under his venom, it still collapsed. Thus, the demon scorpion race expert's eyes revealed a crazy look. However, this crazy look soon froze. The purple-black venom gushed out. Bufang didn't dodge, and his face didn't change at all. It was as if he was facing a ball of water that was sprinkled over. The bandage on the arm suddenly twitched. In the next moment, the bandage spread, and a pitch-black shadow came out of the bandage. Roar! A bestial roar echoed. That bestial roar reverberated, ear-splitting. It made all the demon scorpion race experts dumbstruck. Swish! Like a whale swallowing, all the venom was swallowed by the phantom that appeared on Bufang's arm. After swallowing it, the phantom let out a satisfied burp. The atmosphere became a little awkward. The demon scorpion race expert's eyes widened, gazing at Bufang. He was a little bewildered, a little confused. His entire being was a little confused. What had just happened? That phantom had swallowed his venom and burped. Who was it? Bufang tilted his head, indifferently looking at the demon scorpion race's expert. That fellow dared to sneak up on him. Gently grabbing the scorpion tail, Bufang's palm gently exerted force. Instantly, the scorpion tail made a cracking sound, directly breaking into two halves. How tragic could it be? Bufang already knew what he wanted to know, so he naturally wouldn't show any mercy to these supremes of the demon scorpion race who dared to kill him. He snapped his fingers. Immediately, the dark golden mystic fire in his hand shot out rapidly. In the next instant, those sovereign experts were incinerated into ashes from the inside out, scattering with a gust of wind. Given Bufang's current cultivation state, he could definitely crush all of these supreme beings. And Ai Yen, who was leaning against the door, was also amazed by Bufang's methods. He was able to kill a group of people so easily. The current owner Bu had indeed become somewhat different. And Ai Yen's eyes flickered. Bufang looked at an Ai Yen and said, "Seems like we need to deal with some things first. After we're done, we can help you control the heavenly starcatcher disc." And Ai Yen shrugged. She naturally had no objections to this. She also had some feelings for the Light Wind Empire. No matter what, she had lived here for a period of time. After closing the door, Bufang walked out of the alley with his hands clasped behind his back. He wanted to see how the Light Wind Empire had changed. And Ai Yen blindly followed behind Bufang. She didn't say anything, but her heart was filled with anticipation. The two of them walked out of the alley, arriving at a wide street covered in snow. Bufang and Ai Yen stood in the wind. They looked at the empty street and the buildings that were full of ruins. Both of them couldn't help but frown. They could see that the Light Wind Empire seemed to have been burned and looted. Bufang's heart sank. He knew that the expert of the demon scorpion race was telling the truth. The entire Light Wind Empire had fallen. The houses had collapsed, and the buildings had collapsed. There was no one on the street. The once prosperous Light Wind Empire seemed to have been destroyed in a day. Swoosh! 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 One after another, figures leaped out from the ruins, each of them holding a sawtooth-like long blade in their hands, looking extremely ferocious. These people were the same as the experts of the demon scorpion race that Bufang had taken care of. Bufang didn't pay it any mind and continued to walk forward as if he was taking a stroll in the park. He raised a hand, gently pointing at the demon scorpion race's expert that was pouncing on him. Then, the demon scorpion race's expert exploded in the void, his body torn into pieces. Boom, boom, boom. In the ruins, the experts of the demon scorpion race stood up one by one, and a terrifying, brutal aura filled the entire city. The eyes of these demon scorpions sparkled, giving people a hair-raising feeling. Bufang, these guys are disgusting. And Ai Yen followed behind Bufang, walking slowly. Like Bufang, she stepped lightly on the white snow. With their strength, it was naturally very easy for them to accomplish this. Roar. The demon scorpion race's experts crawled out of the ruins, roaring crazily. Then, they dashed toward Bufang. There were so many of them that just looking at them would cause one's heart to palpitate. Bufang's face was expressionless, while Ai Yan's face showed a smear of disgust. All of a sudden, Bufang stomped his foot. Instantly, the sky full of snow and wind stopped. The demon scorpion race's experts that were dashing forward froze on the spot, unable to move an inch. Bufang continued forward, clasping his hands behind his back as he brought Ai Yen through the encirclement of the demon scorpion race's experts. Walking out of the encirclement, Bufang wiped his vermilion robe. Raising his hand, he snapped his fingers. Boom! In an instant, the snow and wind rose again. However, these demon scorpion race's experts all screamed miserably. Flames spread out from their bodies, swallowing them, turning them into flaming men. After a sizzling sound, all the demon scorpion race's experts were burned to ashes. The thick snow on the ground melted after the demon scorpion race's experts were burned. As they moved forward, they burned along the way. Bufang's face was expressionless, while Ai Yan's face was filled with disgust. The direction they were heading in was the Light Wind Empire's imperial palace. Along the way there were familiar scenes. However, these scenes were hard to overlap with the scene in their minds. All of the scenes had turned into ruins. However, the majestic imperial palace was still maintained well. The entire imperial city's humans, other than the dead, were all imprisoned in the prison. Light Wind Empire's imperial palace, main hall of the palace. On the high dragon throne, a burly figure sat cross-legged. This person's figure was filled with muscles. There were 2 horns on his head, and the armor on his body was dark black. This person was the demon scorpion race's commander, a half-step heavenly ethereal realm creature of the netherworld, Xie. When he first received this mission, Xie rejected it. However, under pressure, he still agreed to the mission, leading the army to this continent. Xie liked to eat meat, especially humans. He liked the tender meat of women. He brought a chef from the ruined prison, and one of them was especially good at cooking women. As long as it was a woman that passed through his hands, the dishes he made were all top-grade delicacies. Xie reclined on the chair. Behind him was a man wearing a black chef robe. This man was from the demon scorpion race. He was the chef from the ruined prison that Xie brought. That chef's eyes shone with a hint of malice. Suddenly, below the main hall, several figures appeared, escorting a slender, unbelievably beautiful person. If Bufang was here, he would definitely recognize this person's identity. It was the first customer of Fong Fong's little store, the Xiao family's young master, Xiao Xiaolong. His identity was noble, and he was Bufang's apprentice chef. The current Xiao Xiaolong looked a little disheveled. The hair on his head was incomparably dirty, and his face was unkempt. His eyes were bloodshot. The disaster came too quickly. The people of the imperial city did not even have time to react. Those terrifying and hateful pirates had already taken down the imperial city. The moment Xiao Xiaolong appeared, the expression of the chef standing behind the demon scorpion instantly changed. That gaze became a little resentful and vigilant, as if Xiao Xiaolong was going to steal something precious from him. The leader looked at Xiao Xiaolong with an excited expression. He had eaten the delicacies cooked by Xiao Xiaolong before. That taste made all the pores on his body open up. It made him extremely excited and unforgettable. He liked to eat the dishes cooked by Xiao Xiaolong. Therefore, after conquering the Light Wind Imperial capital, he didn't kill Xiao Xiaolong. Instead, he kept Xiao Xiaolong alive. He wanted to make Xiao Xiaolong his personal chef and cook delicious food for him. Xiao Xiaolong naturally did not agree to the demon scorpion leader's request. He was the chef of Fong Fong's little store, the apprentice chef of Owner Bu. How could he become the personal chef of this invader? This was something he would not do even if he was beaten to death. Xiao Xiaolong was a little angry in his heart. Originally, if he stayed in Fong Fong's little store, these people from the demon scorpion race would not be able to do anything to him. However, these people used Xiao Yanyu to threaten him. This left him with no other choice. Therefore, he walked out of Fong Fong's little store and became this guy's prisoner. How many days has it been? Why haven't you agreed to this leader's request? He sat on the dragon throne, looking at Xiao Xiaolong, who was being escorted up, and the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. Although a smile appeared on his face, Xiehe's heart was already a little impatient. This ant-like human kept rejecting him. Could it be that being his, Xiehe's, personal chef was not as comfortable as being a chef in a mere restaurant? After experiencing a few rejections, Xiehe's heart finally became a little angry. You demon! Even if I, Xiao Xiaolong, die, I will not be your chef. Give up on this thought. Xiao Xiaolong was as handsome as a woman, but when he became cold, he was a little domineering. Xiehe coldly smiled. He seemed to have already met that Xiao Xiaolong would not obediently give in. Therefore, this time, he was prepared. This leader is persuading you with kind words, but you don't want face when I give it. This leader does not have that much patience to waste with you. Xiehe coldly smiled. His eyes were clear, as though they were emitting light. In the next instant, he clapped his hands. The ground of the imperial palace instantly let out a rumbling sound. Xiao Xiaolong froze. His pupils suddenly shrank as he looked in that direction. He saw that on the ground, a cage slowly rose from within. Within that cage there were two people imprisoned. When Xiao Xiaolong saw these two people, his heart suddenly shrank, and the expression in his eyes suddenly changed. Those two people were none other than his blood sister, Xiao Yanyu and Ouyang Xiaoi, who had a very good relationship with him. At this moment, the two people's faces were a little pale, and they dispiritedly fell within the cage. Xiehe looked at Xiao Xiaolong's face that had changed, and instantly grinned. I'll ask one more time. Do you agree or not? If you don't agree, I will let my chef personally cook your family and friends in front of you, Xiehe said. As his voice fell, the sinister-looking chef wearing a black chef robe, who was standing beside him, suddenly had a light flash in his eyes. His figure seemed to have teleported, appearing in front of the cage. He opened his mouth, his gaze fixed on the beautiful and cute Ouyang Xiaoi in the cage, revealing a look of excitement. It's really a top-notch ingredient, that chef said. After Ouyang Xiaoi, who was in the cage, heard this, her eyelashes instantly trembled. She opened her eyes, revealing a look of fear. Xiao Xiaolong's chest was completely filled with rage. He wanted to let out a roar, but his heart was filled with helplessness. The strength of these demons was too strong, making him completely unable to resist. Chapter 857. This chef was a member of the demon chef clan in the ruined prison. Xiehe liked to eat, so he had found this demon chef to be his chef. In reality, this decision was the right one. After all, he was a member of the demon chef clan. The dishes he cooked were delicious, and his skills were superb. Most importantly, The demon chef clan specialized in using spices. The combination of various spices could make the fragrance of the dishes reach the peak. Imo grinned, his eyes looking as though he had found his prey, bursting with brilliance. He raised his hand and his long fingernails gently knocked on the steel cage, making a clanging sound. It's really an excellent ingredient, Imo laughed hoarsely, his face revealing a look of desire and excitement. In his mind, he was already thinking about what kind of spices to pair with this ingredient, so that the taste of the ingredient could be brought out to the peak. Ouyang Xiaoi, who was in the cage, was trembling all over. She had already grown up. Although her little face still had a hint of immaturity, she was no longer the little girl from before. She now had the seductive and graceful figure of a young girl. She had become even more slender and elegant, and her beauty was not inferior to Xiao Yinyu's. Xiao Yinyu was also in the cage. Although she looked to be in a sorry state, her gaze was very calm. She was a cultured and reasonable woman. She was very quiet, always giving people a very ethereal feeling. Facing death, she was not that afraid. Although her gaze was trembling, revealing the nervousness in her heart, compared to Ouyang Xiaoi, she was still much calmer. This kind of calmness made the demon chef Imo a little unhappy. Crack! The demon chef Imo's palm suddenly grabbed the steel cage, and the steel bars of the cage were directly crushed by him. Although Imo was just a chef, his cultivation was not weak. He had the cultivation of the divine physique echelon. After all, as a chef, facing all kinds of ingredients, if he did not have enough cultivation, he would sometimes be at a loss. Let them go. Xiao Xiaolong was enraged to the extreme. His fair face was flushed red because of his anger. He breathed heavily through his nose, and his body was filled with raging flames of anger. It's very simple to let them go. You just have to be my personal chef and cook for me. Then I can let these two women live a little longer. Xie, who was sitting on the dragon throne, said with a smile. Xiao Xiaolong suddenly raised his head, his eyes surging with rage. Dream on. Bufang walked slowly with his hands behind his back. He entered the Tianxian gate and headed for the palace. The gate of heavenly mystery was no stranger to Bufang. He had walked through it many times and even cooked at the 100 family banquet. As he stepped on the snow, it made a crunching sound. An Ai Yen followed behind Bufang. Suddenly, the two of them stopped in their tracks. The vermilion robe on Bufang's body glowed in the wind and snow, fluttering in the wind. The thick pile of snow on the ground suddenly exploded. One after another, pitch-black figures shot up from under the snow, causing snowflakes to fly everywhere. These were the experts of the demon-scorpion race. They soared into the sky, and their first move was a sure-kill move. The scorpion tail shot out. Under the sunlight, the scorpion tail blossomed with resplendent venom. Die! These demon-scorpion experts that emerged from the snow were much stronger than those that Bufang had encountered previously. They were basically all divine body echelon existences. Their auras were stronger, and their venomous tails were faster. It seemed like they wanted to kill with one strike. However, Bufang's face didn't change at all. His spirit sea surged, and in the next instant, his mental energy spread out. The terrifying mental energy caused the surroundings to stagnate, and everything became stagnant in the air. Those demon-scorpion experts with ferocious faces were sealed in the void. Bufang looked at them indifferently. He raised his hand, flicking his finger. The dark golden flame rapidly dashed out, instantly drilling into the bodies of every expert of the demon-scorpion clan. From the inside out, it started to burn. These experts of the demon-scorpion race turned into ashes one by one. Even if they were divine body echelon existences, under Bufang's heaven and earth obsidian flame, they were still fragile. Rumble, the ashes fell together with the white snow, and the air was filled with the smell of burning. Bufang didn't care. He clasped his hands, continuing to move forward. His mental energy spread out, instantly spreading to the entire imperial palace. Suddenly, he narrowed his eyes because he saw a familiar person in his psychic power. However, that familiar person's appearance made Bufang's face darken. An Ai Yen followed behind Bufang. Seeing Bufang's expression change, she was slightly stunned. She could feel that owner Bu seemed to be a little angry. Imperial Palace Hall. The expression of the demon scorpion race's leader, Xie He, who was sitting on the dragon throne, suddenly changed. His gaze focused into the distance. Just now, his heart suddenly palpitated. It was as if his entire person was exposed to some kind of spying. Who dared to spy on him? In this backward human empire, could it be that there was still an almighty human existence? That was impossible. He must have sensed wrongly just now. Xie He's eyes narrowed, becoming a little more sinister. His gaze landed on Xiao Xiaolong, who would risk his life to not agree to his request. In that instant, he was a little dispirited. "Imo, I allow you to start cooking. I hope you won't disappoint this leader," Xie He said. When that Imo heard Xie He's words, the aura on his body instantly burst forth. The sinister face that was wrapped in the black robe revealed a trace of excitement. "Many thanks to leader for granting my wish. With such a top-grade ingredient, Imo will definitely not disappoint leader." With a wave of his hand, the steel bars of the cage were all shattered. Ouyang Xiaoi and Xiao Yinyu's delicate bodies trembled. "Don't come over." No matter how calm Xiao Yinyu was at this moment, she still felt a little flustered. Could it be that they were really going to die here today? The disaster came too quickly. Xiao Yinyu and Ouyang Xiaoi found it hard to accept. Xiao Xiaolong furiously roared. He wanted to struggle. However, his cultivation was too weak, and he could not break free from the demon scorpion race's restraints. He could only watch as that disgusting demon chef Imo approached Xiao Yinyu and Ouyang Xiaoi step by step. "My little darlings, don't be afraid. If you're afraid, the quality of the meat won't be good. Come, give this chef a smile." Imo approached step by step. His hand shook, and a kitchen knife instantly fell into his hand. The appearance of that kitchen knife was very strange. In reality, it did not look like a kitchen knife. It was a bone knife that was sharpened from the leg bones of some spirit beast. The white kitchen knife was engraved with demonic runes, causing the knife to be filled with a strange fluctuation and be incomparably sharp. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The kitchen knife spun in Mo's hand. The saber light flickered, and waves of energy spread out. His mouth opened and his tongue hung down, revealing a sinister smile. That smile caused Xiao Yinyu and Ouyang Xiaoi's bodies to tremble even more. On the dragon throne, the demon scorpion race's leader, Xie He, also slightly narrowed his eyes, revealing a look of anticipation. Xiao Xiaolong's eyes widened. They were bloodshot, and his anger surged violently. However, he could not do anything. He could only watch. He watched as that kitchen knife continuously approached Xiao Yinyu and Ouyang Xiaoi. Within the entire imperial palace, all of the demon scorpion race's experts let out a cold laugh. The kitchen knife emitted a cold light as it neared Ouyang Xiaoi. Imo had his own way of dealing with these ingredients. The demon chefs were good at cooking, and they were good at using spices. Around his body, white bone jars that contained a rich fragrance floated up, revolving around his body. There was a smacking sound. The kitchen knife was grasped accurately by Imo. At this moment, Imo's eyes suddenly widened. The knife was aimed at Ouyang Xiaoi's artery, tearing it apart. To deal with ingredients, one had to first bleed. Imo's tongue stretched out, his face filled with anticipation for the scene of fresh blood spurting out. The fragrance of fresh blood caused his entire body to slightly tremble. That was an excited tremble. Ouyang Xiaoi was so scared that she tightly closed her eyes. Her entire person was shrouded in despair. Her heart was like dead ashes. However, suddenly, she thought that she was about to die. The pain that she imagined did not descend. Everything around her became extremely quiet. Her eyelashes slightly trembled as she slowly opened her eyes. In the next instant, she discovered that the distance between that kitchen knife and her artery was less than an inch. However, it was this inch that was difficult to advance. Amo's body froze, his eyes filled with disbelief. Tap tap tap. The clear sound of footsteps rang out in everyone's ears. Ouyang Xiaoyi froze. Xiao Yinyu also froze. They all raised their heads to look. Over there, a familiar thin and slender figure slowly walked out. Bufang clasped his hands, the vermilion robe on his body fluttering. His faint mental force surged as he looked at the scene in the great hall. He gently exhaled. I'm back. Chapter 858. A faint voice reverberated throughout the entire imperial palace, reverberating in everyone's ears. Ouyang Xiaoyi opened her eyes, looking at the familiar figure in the distance. In an instant, her entire person froze on the spot. In the next instant, her big eyes instantly emitted a light of excitement. Tears appeared in her eyes, almost flowing out. It's him. It's really him. Ouyang Xiaoyi did not think that she would actually see this person before she died. As long as this person was here, everything seemed to become very calm and peaceful. Because that person could give people a huge sense of security. The feeling of death that she felt when the kitchen knife approached her body instantly faded away. In front of her, that demon chef Amo's body froze on the spot, not moving at all. Only that long tongue was still continuously dripping saliva. Extremely disgusting. Ouyang Xiaoyi's eyes widened, her jade-like nose wrinkled, letting out an angry snort. Looking at the other party not moving. Ouyang Xiaoyi did not know where she got the strength from, but with a kick, she landed on that demon chef Amo's lower body. Demon chef Amo's stiff body suddenly trembled. His body was completely suppressed by Bufang's mental force, completely unable to move. However, that kind of pain could not be faked. The feeling of his lower body being torn apart caused Amo's entire body to tremble violently. His originally green face instantly turned red, and then from red to purple. Red to purple. Who asked a disgusting fellow like you to threaten your grandaunt with a knife? Ouyang Xiaoyi seemed to feel that one kick was not enough, so she ruthlessly kicked him a few more times. Demon Chef Amo almost vomited blood, his eyes wide open, densely bloodshot. Although his body was unable to move after being kicked a few times, his lower body was almost about to explode. And his figure was also kicked to the ground. So exciting! Ouyang Xiaoyi's face was flushed red, incomparably excited. She screamed, feeling Xiao Yinyu's shoulder shake. At this moment, Xiao Yinyu's eyes were still tightly shut. Although she appeared calm, in reality, she did not want to die. Sister Yinyu, quickly open your eyes. The smelly boss is here to save us. The smelly boss is back. Ouyang Xiaoyi shook Xiao Yinyu's shoulder and almost screamed in excitement. She seemed to have forgotten that she was still a prisoner. Xiao Yinyu's long eyelashes trembled as she slowly opened her eyes. She thought that Ouyang Xiaoyi was just spouting nonsense out of fear. However, when she opened her eyes, the first thing she saw was a familiar figure standing at the entrance with his hands behind his back. That person was none other than Onerbu, whom he had not seen for a long time. That man really came back? The rims of Xiao Yinyu's eyes reddened in an instant. It was as if all the grievances she had suffered for the past few days burst forth at this moment. Xiao Xiaolong was pressed to the ground. He didn't want to see his sister's blood splattered on the spot, nor did he want to see Ouyang Xiaoyi being beheaded alive. However, a familiar voice rang out. This caused him to be stunned. He slowly turned his head and saw Bufang, who was standing at the door. The experts of the demon scorpion race in the main hall did not expect such a turn of events. To them, the Light Wind Empire was too weak. It should be impossible for an expert of Bufang's level to appear. The demon scorpion race's leader narrowed his eyes. The stagnant feeling in the air caused his heart to shiver. The mental energy of the guy in front of him seemed to be a little too strong. Who are you? Sitting on the dragon throne, he was still that indifferent. He didn't seem to be flustered because of Bu Fang's appearance. Bu Fang indifferently glanced at the demon scorpion race's leader. He didn't care about the other party's question, and he didn't reply. He just clasped his hands like that, slowly walking forward. The clear sound of footsteps resounded in the entire main hall. Everyone felt their hearts clench. In the next instant, Bu Fang came to the side of the demon scorpion race's expert, who was holding Xiao Xiaolong. Who am I? Bu Fang raised his hand, patting the bodies of the two demon scorpion race's experts, who couldn't move at all. He calmly said. The faces of the two demon scorpion race's experts revealed a kind of fear. They wanted to escape, but they were locked by a powerful mental energy. Swish! Their tails shot out. They wanted to pierce through Bu Fang. However, Bu Fang had long seen through the demon scorpion race's trick. Before the tails could even get close, they were burned and evaporated by the two dark gold flames. I'm just a chef. The little guy you're holding is my apprentice chef, Bu Fang expressionlessly said. Then, the heaven and earth obsidian flame rapidly surged around his body, turning into a roaring fire dragon. It swallowed the two demon scorpion race's experts, burning them into ashes in just a blink of an eye. What the fire control technique brought to Bu Fang was not only the control of the flames, but also an attack technique that could crush the enemy. For existences weaker than him, it was basically an instant kill. Xiao Xiaolong felt his body loosen. Then, he suddenly jumped up from the ground. His tearful eyes stared at Bu Fang, his heart extremely excited. Bu. Owner Bu. Xiao Xiaolong said. Ouyang Xiaoyi and Xiao Yinyu also ran over from afar, holding hands as they went to Bu Fang's side. They did not think that they could survive. Although they were shocked, they were still a little happy. Bu Fang looked at the slender and elegant Ouyang Xiaoyi, who was almost at his neck. He couldn't help but raise the corner of his mouth. He reached out his hand, rubbing the other party's head. Then, he looked at the demon scorpion race's leader sitting on the dragon throne. He suddenly retracted his mental force. The moment he retracted it, within the imperial palace, a miserable howl like a pig being slaughtered resounded. Not far away, the demon chef Imo, who was lying on the ground, clutched his lower body. He rolled on the ground, letting out a miserable howl that made people's hairs stand on end. It seemed that it was really painful. That pitiful look made Ouyang Xiaoyi a little embarrassed. However, soon, her neck stiffened. This disgusting fellow deserved it. He was the ingredient. His whole family was ingredients. You ingredient. Damn it. The demon chef Imo clutched his lower body, grabbing the kitchen knife as he stood up from the ground. His face was ferocious and terrifying. The tearing pain in his lower body caused his eyes to be filled with killing intent. Right now, he only wanted to slice off the meat on that ingredient's body, slice by slice. Boom! A palm slammed onto the dragon throne, and the armrest of the dragon throne instantly shattered, unable to bear the heavy pressure. He stood up from his seat. Looking down at Bu Fang, a terrifying aura emitted from his body. You're a non-human expert, yet you dare to come and save people? Who gave you the courage? He coldly laughed. Bu Fang's mental force was strong, but his true energy cultivation was only at the divine soul realm with a one-step soul ladder. He was a half-step, heavenly ethereal realm expert from the ruined prison. If converted to the hidden dragon continent strength, it would be around the divine soul realm with a 7-step soul ladder. With this kind of strength, he was an invincible existence in the entire southern region. He could look down on everyone. A mere one-step soul ladder human ant actually dared to show off in front of him. Smelly boss. Where's the Lord go? I'll let you, the Lord, go, slap this guy to death with one claw. Ouyang Xiaoyi seemed to have more confidence because of Bu Fang's return. She was filled with dissatisfaction towards Xie He, who was looking down on her, as she directly shouted. This girl's trust towards the Lord Go was almost blind. After all, the son of the Lord Go was invincible in her heart. Bu Fang's eyebrows twitched. He looked at Ouyang Xiaoyi, his face expressionless. This time, only Yan and I came back. The Lord Go, he's a bit busy. Bu Fang said. What he said was the truth. The Lord Go was indeed a bit busy. That guy was busy sleeping. Ouyang Xiaoyi felt very regretful that the Lord Go did not return. This girl raised her head and looked at Bu Fang, her eyes filled with distrust. Smelly boss, can you do it? Bu Fang took in a deep breath. He felt that he should indeed find something to stuff this girl's mouth. This girl had grown taller, and her tongue had become more venomous. Retreat. Go to Yan's side. Bu Fang could not be bothered with Ouyang Xiaoyi's strange gaze as he calmly said. In the distance, Yan, who was wearing a white muslin dress, smiled and waved at Ouyang Xiaoyi and the rest. That absolutely beautiful smile that blossomed in an instant caused everyone's breathing to stop. Xiao Xiaolong eagerly went over. Ouyang Xiaoyi also eagerly ran over, sweetly calling out, "Elder sister," and Yan. The corner of Bu Fang's mouth twitched. He felt that his position was being challenged in his eyes. "Owner Bu, be careful," Xiao Yanyu gently said as she looked at Bu Fang. This actually made Bu Fang feel a little more at ease. There was still someone who cared about him. Proudly nodding his head, Bu Fang continued to look at the leader of the demon scorpion race in the distance, Xie He. Boom boom boom. However, Xie He did not move. The four corners of the great hall exploded. 4 powerful auras gushed out, and a terrifying gust of wind, wrapped in dense nether energy, rushed toward Bu Fang. Xie He coldly watched. If you want to save him, you have to get past the 4 great generals of my demon scorpion race. Chapter 859. The 4 great generals of the demon scorpion race were, in reality, the 4 fierce generals under Xie He, the chief of the demon scorpion race. Every one of them had reached the divine soul realm, and they all had their own powerful sure-kill skills. The demon scorpion race was considered a big race in the ruin prison, and there were many chief-level experts. The peak existences of the demon scorpion race were similar to the peak existences of the demon eye race. They were existences of the demon king level. There were 8 demon kings in the ruin prison, and every demon king represented a big race. They were extremely terrifying. Although Xie He, was not a peak expert of the demon scorpion race, he still had the heart of an expert. In the Hidden Dragon Continent's southern region, this backward place, Xie He, could definitely dominate. Adding on his 4 great generals, even if he attacked the central region of the Hidden Dragon Continent, it would not be a problem. However, he did not, because there were still many mysteries that had not been unearthed in the southern region. That secret was the main reason why the demon scorpion race's experts had transported his troops to this region. Because it was a thankless task. However, Xie He did not think so. Being an invincible overlord in this world was actually very satisfying. Although the Hidden Dragon Continent was much more backward than the ruined prison, there were still some peak experts, just like the Holy Lord level existences of the Holy Lands. If Xie He, encountered such existences, he would be instantly killed. He would rather be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix. Xie He's, dream was very simple, to be the local overlord in peace. This kind of life of controlling everything made him enjoy it very much. Bu Fang's appearance could be considered an accident. Luckily, this guy who appeared was not very strong. With the cultivation of the 4 great generals, it was enough to completely kill this reckless human. Bu Fang stood with his hands behind his back. Towards the 4 great generals who were attacking from 4 different directions, he did not care in the slightest. These 4 great generals all had different appearances. Some looked rough, some looked enchanting, some were sharp and unkind, and some were incomparably slow. 3 men and 1 woman. They were Siehi's 4 great generals. Hee. How come there is still a reckless human? A rough expert opened his mouth and let out a tyrannical laugh. Around him, sand and stones flew, and he held a big machete that was covered with dense patterns. Brandishing his machete, he slashed down at Bufang. The other 3 generals stopped attacking and floated in the void of the hall, looking at Bufang with great interest. In their eyes, a human at the divine soul realm with a 1-step soul ladder should be enough to deal with him. The sharp blade aura spread out, cutting the ground and causing it to crack. Bufang's vermilion robe was fluttering in the wind. He frowned slightly and looked at the powerful figure that was slashing down on his head. The spiritual force in his spirit sea suddenly surged. The golden dragon entrenched in the sea of consciousness immediately let out a sonorous dragon roar. Boom! With Bufang's body as the center, the surging spiritual power instantly spread out. The general's body immediately stiffened, and the saber that was slashing down suddenly stopped for a moment. Green smoke curled up from Bufang's hand, and suddenly, a pitch-black wok spun rapidly, hovering in the sky. Buzz! The black turtle constellation wok appeared, and an earthy yellow halo instantly sparkled on the black turtle constellation wok. Bufang's mind controlled the black turtle constellation wok. With a move of his mind, it fiercely smashed down in the direction where the machete was looking. A crisp sound rang out. The general's face instantly changed. He felt a numbness in his hand, which was almost cracked by this wok. The demon scorpion race's general felt extremely sullen. The surging spiritual force had a huge impact on his movements, making his movements a little sluggish. This made him extremely irritable. His eyes were like 2 lanterns, twinkling with radiance. The big machete danced, unceasingly tearing the air. Behind this general was a huge shadow of a devil scorpion. The demon scorpion's tail was swaying, and it opened its mouth, letting out a roar. All of a sudden, it fiercely charged towards Bufang. The black turtle constellation wok spun rapidly, falling on top of Bufang's head. Although his true energy cultivation wasn't very strong, he had the black turtle constellation wok. The black turtle constellation wok had its own pressure, and with his spiritual force that far surpassed his cultivation, dealing with the general was still very easy. With a flick of his finger, he gently flicked the black turtle constellation wok. Instantly, the black turtle constellation wok whizzed out. All of a sudden, it fiercely smashed towards the general. With a boom, the demon scorpion phantom was smashed into pieces. Boom! The phantom was smashed, but the general's figure fiercely pounced towards Bufang. His body twisted, and suddenly claws ferociously stretched out from his body. Boom! Landing on the ground, he turned into a 2-meter-tall giant demon scorpion. Da-da-da! The scorpion's legs quickly crawled on the ground, speeding towards Bufang. The sharp inverted scorpion tail swayed in the air, as if it was waiting for an opportunity to pierce through Bufang. He didn't expect that the general would actually turn into a giant scorpion. Bufang's brows slightly twitched. I don't really like scorpions, but if it's possible, I don't mind cooking it, Bufang calmly said. His voice rang out, causing the expressions of the demon scorpion race's experts to suddenly change. The demon scorpion race's chief, Siehi, was even more enraged. You humans are our ingredients. Such an audacious fellow. Let's go together and tear him apart for me. I want to personally eat this arrogant human, bit by bit. In the air, the eyes of the remaining 3 generals also focused, feeling that Bufang was a little too arrogant. Boom! A terrifying aura also exploded from the 3 of them. In the next instant, they all turned into 2-meter-tall giant demon scorpions. After landing, they almost filled the entire great hall of the imperial palace. Da-da-da! Da-da-da! The scorpion's legs rapidly slid on the ground. Every time they landed, the ground would shatter, and Ai Yen brought Ouyang Xiaoyi and the others, retreating far away. They did not join in this battle. And Ai Yan's current state was extremely unstable, and she did not dare to join in this kind of battle. After all, the power of the stars in her mind was too terrifying, and she was unable to control it. And Ai Yen believed that Bufang would definitely be able to easily finish off these giant scorpions. Moreover, with Owner Bu's character, these demon scorpions might even become ingredients. Being surrounded by 4 giant demon scorpions, monstrous nether energy filled the air. Bufang was very calm. He was someone who had even seen the blood-illuminating dragon, a giant from hell. How could he be frightened by the pressure of these demon scorpions? Although he was surrounded, Bufang still had a calm and collected look. The black turtle constellation walk was recalled, floating above his head. Looking at these 4 giant demon scorpions, the corner of Bufang's mouth involuntarily twitched. He raised his hand, slowly untying the black and white bandage on his arm. After the bandage was undone, the black and white bandage was revealed. Roar! A wild and domineering beast roar suddenly resounded in everyone's ears. The 4 demon scorpions felt a shiver run down their spines. They had a bad premonition, so they didn't dare to confront Bufang any longer. A giant demon scorpion opened its mouth and hissed. Its body dashed forward, its scissor-like mouth opening and closing, revealing its sharp, sawtooth-like mouth. Clang! All of a sudden, that demon scorpion leaped up, aiming to bite Bufang. However, its scissor-like mouth didn't bite Bufang. Instead, it bit the black turtle constellation walk in Bufang's hand. The stiff black turtle constellation walk made the demon scorpion's mouth soften. Its scissor-like mouth almost broke, the energy of the black and white Taotai gushed out. Bufang felt his body was filled with terrifying energy. Although he didn't become a giant like Chu Chongqing, Bufang's body had reached an extremely formidable level, which had surpassed the divine soul realm with a one-step soul ladder. Swinging the black turtle constellation walk, the demon scorpion retreated several steps. Bufang's body moved for the first time. His clothes fluttered. Bufang leaped up, landing on the demon scorpion's back. However, the demon scorpion was delighted. It wasn't easy to stand on a scorpion's back. Swish! At first glance, people could tell it was a black scorpion tail filled with extreme poison. It roared, aiming at Bufang's head. It wanted to pierce through Bufang's head in just a blink of an eye. Buzz! A dragon roar resounded. Everybody's eyes were dazzled for a moment. A moment later, they saw a gold kitchen knife appear in Bufang's hand. Bufang held the enlarged dragon bone kitchen knife in one hand. With the black turtle constellation walk in one hand and the dragon bone kitchen knife in the other. Stepping on the demon scorpion, he looked so domineering. Bufang didn't even look at the scorpion tail behind him. He gently swung the dragon bone kitchen knife behind him. The scorpion tail was cut off. Dark green fluid gushed out. The demon scorpion under Bufang's feet became incomparably wild. Cutting off its tail was the same as cutting off its lifeblood. It shook hard, swaying left and right as it struggled crazily. Bufang stood on the demon scorpion's back, his face emotionless. He gently exhaled. "You'd better behave yourself." A moment later, the black turtle constellation walk enlarged. Bufang held it in one hand, smashing it down. Chapter 860. On Bufang's arm, there was a black and white radiance circulating. That was the black and white Taoyes Taotai souls activating it, causing Bufang's physical strength to rise to another level. Moreover, his strength had become extremely terrifying. The enlarged black turtle constellation walk was much bigger than Bufang's entire body. However, it was easily lifted up by Bufang, then ruthlessly smashed toward the demon scorpion beneath his feet. The walk solidly smashed onto the demon scorpion's head. That demon scorpion was instantly smashed onto the ground, causing the ground to crack. Fine cracks spread out in all directions. It was just a walk, but it had already smashed this demon scorpion into a daze. The remaining 3 demon scorpions also let out roars, moving one after another. Bu Fang's expression was indifferent. His feet lightly tapped on the demon scorpion's body, then his figure floated up. That half-dead demon scorpion was swept away by the black turtle constellation walk, collecting it. Bu Fang's gaze turned, landing on the remaining 3 demon scorpions. With the black turtle constellation walk in one hand and the dragon bone kitchen knife in the other. On top of the kitchen knife, a resplendent golden radiance circulated. True energy poured into the dragon bone kitchen knife. A loud dragon roar rang out, and the 3-headed demon scorpion's body shook. A wave of terrifying dragon might was emitted from the kitchen knife in the human's hand. Boom! The 3-headed demon scorpion felt a wave of trembling, and its movements became sluggish. However, their movements became sluggish, but Bu Fang's movements did not. Stepping in the air, he quickly appeared in front of a demon scorpion. He raised the black turtle constellation walk, then smashed down. A muffled bang rang out. That demon scorpion was deeply smashed into the ground. It did not move for a long time. The walk smashed down, causing the other party to be dumbfounded. In the distance, Ouyang Xiaoyi and the rest watched with faces full of excitement. Owner Bu was indeed Owner Bu. He still wielded a walk so dazzlingly, so violently. On the dragon throne, Chief Xie, he did not think that his 4 generals would actually be defeated like this. This made his heart involuntarily raise a wave of vigilance. This human was strange. A kitchen knife and a wok. He really was AF** King Chef. But was there such a violent chef? Light flashed in Xie He's eyes. Boom! Bu Fang smashed the wok down again, instantly causing Xie He's heart to tremble. The last demon scorpion was also smashed onto the ground by Bu Fang. Then, they were all sucked into the black turtle constellation walk by Bu Fang. The black turtle constellation walk became extremely huge and was lifted up by Bu Fang with a single hand. Within that walk were the 4 great generals of Xie He. The rage on Xie He's body was surging. Was this human in front of him planning to cook his 4 generals? They actually dared to humiliate their demon scorpion race like this. He was courting death. Boom, boom, boom. Within the black turtle constellation walk, sounds of collisions could be heard continuously. The 4 demon scorpions seemed to be struggling to get out. However, under the suppression of Bu Fang's powerful mental power, the 4 demon scorpions were unable to crawl out. Opening his mouth, a ball of dark gold flame shot out from within Bu Fang's mouth. The heaven and earth obsidian flame wrapped around Bu Fang's body, being controlled by his fire control technique. The temperature continuously rose, and very quickly, it reached an extremely terrifying level. His mind flickered. That dragon-like flame shot out, drilling into the black turtle constellation walk. In an instant, the flames within the black turtle constellation walk flourished. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The vibration within the walk became even more intense, and the black turtle constellation walk even began to sway left and right. The leader of the demon scorpion race, Xie He, was enraged to the extreme. On his body, a tyrannical energy suddenly burst forth, instantly shattering the dragon throne. Xie He was enraged, stepping on the air as he rose. The energy on his body was also rapidly rising. After all, he was a half-step into the heavenly ethereal realm expert, and his strength was extremely powerful. The air within the entire imperial palace became stagnant at this moment. The breathing of Ouyang Xiaoyi and the rest became a little hurried. And Ai Yen seemed to have noticed this point as well. With a flip of her hand, dots of starlight instantly floated out, forming an energy barrier around them. Just by doing this, Ai Yan's face became a little pale. It was as if she had used up all the energy in her body, and her entire person became a little drowsy. Xie He domineeringly stepped on the air, and with a clanging sound, a battle-axe appeared in his hand as he slowly raised it up. That battle-axe was blood-red in color, and it was filled with a murderous aura. Die! He was enraged to the extreme. Bufang actually dared to humiliate their demon scorpion race like this. If this could be tolerated, what could not? Buzz, both hands holding the battle-axe, he fiercely chopped it down in the direction of Bufang. This axe seemed as though it was going to shatter the void of this world. A huge axe shadow appeared, slowly moving. Under the sharpness of this axe, fine cracks appeared in the void. After all, it was a half-step into the heavenly ethereal realm, and its aura was shocking. Compared to the 4 great generals, it was much stronger. A terrifying wind blew over, causing the clothes on Bufang's body to flutter. His hair also broke free from the velvet rope, fluttering in all directions. The faces of Xiao Xiaolong and the rest became deathly white. This was the first time they saw He make a move. No one would have thought that this he would actually be so terrifying. That was a kind of power that far surpassed their understanding. This kind of existence, how could they be his opponent? Honorbu's opponent was actually such a powerful character. After Xiao Yinyu and the rest recovered from the shock, worry appeared in their eyes. That was worry for Bufang. They were really afraid that Bufang would not be able to block that he and would be chopped into 2 halves by that act. However, Bufang's expression seemed to be very calm, not the slightest bit affected by the other party's aura. His hand shook, and the dazzling golden dragon bone kitchen knife fell into his hand. The dragon bone kitchen knife released a golden brilliance, and the roar of a dragon rang out. As for Bufang, he single-handedly grabbed the Black Turtle Constellation Walk. Within the Black Turtle Constellation Walk, the heaven and earth obsidian flame burned. Holding onto the kitchen knife, he pointed it at He. His expression was indifferent as he slowly opened his mouth. Overlord 13 Blades. Chop! In the next instant, Bufang raised the true energy in his body, slashing at He with the Overlord 13 Blades. Bufang's current Overlord 13 Blades had already reached an extremely powerful level, and he could continuously swing out 11 blades. 11 blades stacked together, and the power was enough to kill an almighty existence. 1 blade, 2 blades, as the blade energy continuously stacked together, behind Bufang, there seemed to be a phantom that appeared. That phantom held a huge blade in its hand, slashing forward. Its closed eyes slowly opened, as though it was tearing the sky apart, making everyone feel as though everything in front of them had lost its luster. 11 blades stacked together, and the power shook the heavens, able to shatter the heavens. He was a little panicked. He suddenly felt his heart palpitate as that blade energy came slashing over. He felt as though he was as weak as a paper tiger, and that he could easily be torn apart by that blade. The axe shadow and that blade energy collided together. The result was very obvious, and it did not exceed anyone's expectations. Without a single sound, his axe shadow was shattered by the blade energy that Bufang had slashed out. The power of the blade energy did not decrease. The Overlord Absolute might behind Bufang's back, and the terrifying pressure made he let out a hiss. He's body suddenly twisted, then transformed into an even larger demon scorpion. Compared to the 4 great generals, the demon scorpion in front of him was even bigger. It was a full 3 meters tall, like a small mountain, giving people a terrifying pressure. However, even He, who had transformed into the true body of a demon scorpion, still felt his heart tremble. That pitch-black barbed tail of his rapidly pierced out, wanting to clash with that blade energy. The attack of his tail was his strongest attack. This move could be counted as staking everything on one throw. However, his tail broke. Under the stacking of these 11 blades, He's tail was forcefully cut off by the blade energy. The pain instantly surged and covered He's brain, causing him to become incomparably violent. However, although his tail was cut off, it had also reduced the power of that blade energy by quite a bit. Under the blade energy that could not be dodged, He used his body to forcefully resist this attack. A loud explosion rang out, and waves of energy swirled everywhere. The shell on He's body instantly shattered, directly sinking in, and fine cracks spread out. The roar was ear-splitting. He was in so much pain that he was enraged. Boom! The scorpion tail slightly pressed down, and He's body was like a spring that jumped high up. The roof of the imperial palace instantly exploded, and the golden bricks and red tiles all fell in all directions. In the air, He's scorpion eyes stared at Bufang. Bufang held the dragon bone kitchen knife in one hand and the black turtle constellation wok in the other, looking back without fear. In the next instant, Bufang looked at He, and the corner of his mouth rose. With a thought, a porcelain bottle filled with seasoning flew above the black turtle constellation wok. Then, the bottle exploded, and the seasoning sprinkled down. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. A wave of fragrance spread out from the black turtle constellation wok, slowly drifting. It filled the entire imperial palace. He was so angry that he wanted to roar. His lantern-like eyes surged with killing intent. He stood in the sky, letting out a cold voice. "I will definitely kill you. You dare to use my demon scorpion race as an ingredient. You must die." Bufang looked at He and did not say anything. The dragon bone kitchen knife turned into green smoke and dissipated. Bufang's hands suddenly hugged the black turtle constellation wok. Then, the flames in the black turtle constellation wok dispersed. Bufang clapped his hands, and the black turtle constellation wok soared into the sky, flipping over. Rumble! Rumble! For huge scorpions that were roasted until they were scarlet red and golden yellow smashed onto the ground. Steam rose and a rich aroma surged. He was so angry that he went crazy. His scorpion legs kicked randomly in the air, then he turned around and dragged his broken body, intending to escape. However, Bufang did not plan to let him leave like this. Taking in a deep breath, the black and white Taotai souls on his arms roared, fiercely throwing out the steaming black turtle constellation wok. With a ripping sound, the black turtle constellation wok whizzed past, smashing towards He in the air. Chapter 861. Valley of Gluttony. Gluttony god cities. Long street snowflakes filled the sky, falling on the ground. The snow was the color of blood, piling up on the ground. It was a strange scene. The Saint Sovereign's death had not passed, and the entire world was still in sorrow. In the snowstorm, 3 figures were facing each other. Amethyst Elder's eyes were as sharp as knives, as though they could cut everything into pieces. His gaze was fixed on the handsome, sloppy figure in the distance. Beside that figure was his daughter, Saint Daughter Ziyun. As Saint Daughter Ziyun's father, Amethyst Elder could clearly see his daughter's feelings for that young man. Her heart was hanging on that person. A saint daughter of a holy land actually did such a disgraceful thing. It seemed like he had spoiled this little girl too much. Exhaling deeply, Amethyst Elder's eyes were still sharp. This was a netherworld creature. His daughter actually liked a netherworld creature? This was not allowed. Although he had accepted the conditions of the demon clan of the Ruin Prison and became half a netherworld creature, it was precisely because of this that Amethyst Elder would not allow his daughter to be together with a netherworld creature. No matter what, he, Amethyst Elder, had to stop it. So what if I'm a netherworld creature? Did I offend you? Hades Era was a little dissatisfied with Amethyst Elder's tone. Where did this fellow get the confidence to look down on netherworld creatures? The hidden dragon continent was just a small place in the eyes of the netherworld creatures. The great netherworld was vast and boundless. How could the hidden dragon continent compare to it? Moreover, he, Hades Era, was the lord of the netherworld. His pride toward the netherworld was not something that this purple-haired fellow could understand. Hades' era's words made the flames of anger in Amethyst Elder's heart rise continuously. Sizzle on his arm, a wisp of black energy twirled. A jia laughter came from Amethyst Elder's arm, twirling around half of his body. Amethyst Elder raised his hand, and instantly, an eye in his palm opened. The eye was filled with a mysterious light. Amethyst Elder, you lack courage. Why are you talking so much to this little fellow? If you're not satisfied with this fellow, just kill him. The demonic eye opened and closed, and a hoarse voice came out. Shut up. Amethyst Elder glared as he roared. Saint Daughter Ziyun was stunned. She looked at the scene in horror. The eruption of the black gas was beyond her expectations. She had never imagined that her father would have nether energy. Her father was a native of Hidden Dragon Country. Hades' era's eyes couldn't help but narrow as he looked at Amethyst Elder's arm. With just a glance, he saw through everything. The corner of his mouth twitched, revealing a disdainful smile. He shook his head. Get lost. Amethyst Elder was enraged. His purple hair seemed as though it was about to tear the sky apart. The fact that he had fused with the demon eye of the netherworld could not be exposed. Once it was exposed, he would be condemned by everyone. Didn't this demon eye know these key points? Fortunately, only his daughter and that brat were left on the long street. Looks like I just have to kill that brat. Tsk, what should I say to you? You don't have the right to look down on the netherworld creatures. Hades' era said with a smile. A person who had fused with the demon eye of the netherworld was looking down on the netherworld creatures? Wasn't this a joke? Amethyst Elder. To achieve great things you can't hesitate. Let this demon help you. As soon as the demon eye's words fell, Amethyst Elder felt his entire body shiver. Many demonic marks appeared on his palm, covering his entire body in just a blink of an eye. The divine light in Amethyst Elder's eyes dispersed. A moment later, what appeared was the look of the demon eye. Although this body is a little weak, it's not bad in the Hidden Dragon continent. Amethyst Elder grinned. A moment later, he lifted his head to look at Hades' era and Saint Daughter Ziyun. Ziyun felt as though her entire body had fallen into an ice cave. It was so cold that she couldn't move at all. This wasn't her father. That strange look, that strange aura, where was her father? Hades' era was watching with interest. All of a sudden, Amethyst Elder, whose entire body was covered with demonic marks, moved. His figure shot forward in an instant, raising a huge gust of wind. His terrifying aura caused the wind and snow in the entire world to freeze. A scarlet demon eye slowly appeared behind Amethyst Elder. When that demon eye opened, it seemed as though it could determine life and death. Let me help Amethyst Elder to complete what he wants to do. Swish. With a muffled sound, that demon eye opened. A beam of light shot toward Hades' era. That beam of light seemed to contain the aura of death. Tsk. I was wondering why this aura was so familiar. So, it's one of the 8 great demon kings of the ruined prison, the Death Demon King. Is this your death eye? Hades' era narrowed his eyes, smiling faintly. The entire sky turned blood-red. However, Hades' era was still talking cheerfully and wittily. Amethyst Elder's ferocious face instantly froze. In the next instant his eyes widened, as though he couldn't believe it. He didn't think that the guy in front of him could actually recognize him. All of a sudden, Amethyst Elder, whose body was covered with demonic marks, seemed to remember something. Facing that death eye, a terrifying phantom appeared behind Hades' era. It was a terrifying figure that seemed to be able to support both heaven and earth. The figure's eyes slowly opened. When the death eye approached, it instantly collapsed. A scream came from Amethyst Elder's mouth. In the next instant, Amethyst Elder's eyes were filled with fear. It's you. It's actually you. How could you possibly appear here? You can't possibly appear here. Buzz, after Amethyst Elder screamed, the demonic marks on his body quickly retreated, as though he was frightened by something. The demonic marks retreated into his arm, and the demon eye closed. Amethyst Elder regained control of his body. Saint Daughter Ziyun gasped for breath, and her chest heaved up and down. However, seeing the recovered Amethyst Elder, Saint Daughter Ziyun heaved a sigh of relief. Her father had returned. Amethyst Elder's face was ashen. His body had actually been taken over by the consciousness of that demon eye. Damn it! Also, he lifted his head to look at Hades' era. This young man. What was his identity? With just one look, he had actually scared away the noble netherworld creature that had taken over his body. Amethyst Elder seemed to understand how terrifying Hades' era was. Boring. Seeing eye, he didn't even say anything and just ran away. He's just as cowardly as before. Hades' era was speechless, his mouth twitching. Amethyst Elder did not say anything more. He just gave Hades' era a deep look, then looked at his daughter. Then, he turned around and left. With just one look, he had scared away the noble netherworld creature. What did he, Amethyst Elder, have to challenge the other party? Saint Daughter Ziyun and Hades' era were dumbstruck as they looked at Amethyst Elder, who had turned around and left. They did not know what to say. Leaving the Valley of Gluttony, Amethyst Elder landed on a mountain peak. His forehead was full of sweat, which was caused by fear. He raised his hand and his eyes opened wide, filled with fear. "What are you afraid of?" Amethyst Elder asked. "You don't understand. That person is terrifying. Don't provoke him. We're going to find the Heavenly Star Catcher Disc and destroy it." Luckily, the Heavenly Star Catcher Disc is not in the Valley of Gluttony anymore. Otherwise, the demon eye's hoarse voice was filled with lingering fear. It was as if he had seen an incomparably terrifying existence. Amethyst Elder did not really understand, but he was sure that that young man was absolutely incomparably terrifying. The Heavenly Star Catcher Disc's aura is in the south. It's very far, but we still have to go. Destroy the Heavenly Star Catcher Disc, and this demon will agree to all of your requests. The hoarse voice continued to ring, full of temptation as it spoke to Amethyst Elder. Amethyst Elder straightened his body on the mountain peak. Then, with a stomp of his foot, the entire mountain peak collapsed. His figure soared into the sky, and a spirit boat appeared under his feet. He tore through the void and left. His direction was the south of the hidden dragon continent. The black turtle constellation Walk whistled, causing the air to rumble. The smell of roasted scorpions still lingered in the black turtle constellation Walk. This smell made the demon scorpion chief Xie, he extremely angry. However, he did not dare to turn his head. He was afraid that if he turned his head, he would be left behind by Bufang. The whistling sound came closer and closer, and Xie felt a sense of danger. If he was hit by this Walk, he would really be left behind. This human's power was only at the divine soul realm with a one-step soul ladder, but his equipment was too good. If it wasn't for those powerful equipment, a Walk and a knife, Xie felt that he could crush that brat with a single hand. A long whistle rang out. Xie turned around. His two huge scorpion pincers instantly left his body, shooting out, smashing toward the black turtle constellation Walk. The two huge scorpion pincers and the black turtle constellation Walk collided. The incomparably tough scorpion pincers were instantly covered in crack. With just one collision, the shell of his pincers was smashed into pieces. Enduring the heartache, Xie used the moment the scorpion pincers blocked the black turtle constellation Walk to instantly escape far away, turning into a stream of light and disappearing. Bufang's mind flickered, and the black turtle constellation Walk scooped up the two scorpion pincers and flew back. The imperial palace had already turned into a pile of ruins. The golden bricks and red tiles had rolled all over the ground, and the dragon throne had also collapsed. However, The imperial palace that had turned into ruins was filled with a dense fragrance. That was a unique meat fragrance. It was like the smell of something being roasted. The gazes of Ouyang Xiaoyi and the rest landed on the ground, where the huge scorpion was roasted until it was red. The danger had already been resolved. They couldn't help but approach the scorpion meat, drooling. Xiao Xiaolong's eyes suddenly lit up. Once again, he saw Owner Bu cooking. It was still so confident and domineering. Although it was a hastily roasted scorpion, this smell, had to be said, it was very fragrant. Owner Bu was Owner Bu. In the distance, the demon chef Amo's legs were trembling. The 4 great demon scorpion generals had actually turned into ingredients and were roasted by someone? This human was simply too daring. The ingredients had actually turned around and eaten the scorpion? And Yan's red lips parted, her saliva dripping down. The group of people walked in front of the huge roasted scorpion, all swallowing their saliva. Bufang clasped his hands, glancing at the demon chef Amo in the distance. The other party was also a chef, but he seemed to be a chef from the ruined prison. Using human flesh as an ingredient. This kind of chef didn't need to exist anymore. Bufang expressionlessly flicked his finger, and a dark golden flame instantly shot out. The flame drilled into Amo's body, instantly turning into a raging inferno. In just a short while, that demon chef Amo was burned to ashes, and his resentful gaze also disappeared. After finishing everything, Bufang turned his head, realizing that the fragrance in the air was getting thicker and thicker. It was unknown when Yen had already cracked open the scorpion shell that was roasted red, revealing the white and tender scorpion meat inside. The billowing fragrance surged. Chapter 862. The giant scorpion sat in the imperial palace. Steam billowed, accompanied by a rich aroma, emitting from the scorpion. Yen was already drooling. She pursed her red lips, and her throat moved up and down. She walked to the front of the giant scorpion, and with a move of her mind, a long sword appeared. That long sword was jade white, and it was incomparably sparkling. There seemed to be a luster revolving around it. Without a doubt, this was a pretty good weapon. However, in Yan's hands, it was used as a tool to crack open the scorpion's shell. The long sword knocked on the scorpion's shell a few times. The scorpion's shell, which was supposed to be very hard, became much weaker after being roasted by Bufang. Crack! A crisp sound rang out. After being knocked by the long sword, it was instantly covered in fine cracks. A strand of oil seeped out from the fine cracks, flowing down the scorpion's shell. The rich aroma of meat caused everyone to involuntarily sink into it. Yan's eyes lit up. She didn't care about anything else anymore. She reached out her hand and began to pull open the broken scorpion's shell. She didn't care if the scorpion's shell would burn her soft and white fingers. The scorpion's shell was pulled open, revealing the white and tender scorpion meat inside. Although the scorpion meat was white and tender, there was a trace of redness on its surface. It was as if the redness of the scorpion's shell had seeped into the scorpion's meat. Ouyang Xiaoyi and the others came over, their eyes bursting with a bright light. Everyone was a little salivating. The aroma was too fragrant. This was an ingredient made from a divine soul realm demon scorpion. The aroma of the meat was enough to make people sink into it. It had been a long time since Ouyang Xiaoyi and the others smelled this kind of aroma. Ever since Bufang left the Light Wind Empire, they had lost a lot of freshness. Bufang walked over. Looking at the drooling crowd, he raised his hand and threw a blue and white porcelain bowl to them. Bufang's system-dimensional bag was very well prepared. Because Bufang didn't know when he would be cooking, it was always good to have a bowl ready at any time. Yen caught the bowl and the chopsticks that Bufang passed to her. With a bowl and chopsticks, as well as the plump and fragrant scorpion meat, what was there to be dissatisfied about? With a flick of her chopsticks, Yen headed toward the scorpion meat that had its shell cracked open. He picked up a piece of scorpion meat and placed it in a bowl. Dense steam rose from the porcelain bowl and drifted in spirals. Yen took a deep breath, and a rumbling sound came from her stomach. Ah woo! With a bite, the plump scorpion meat immediately entered his mouth. It was smooth but not greasy, oily but not greasy. The control of the scorpion meat was just right. The scorpion meat was roasted too well and did not affect the taste. After taking a bite, the meat juice overflowed in his mouth, bringing with it a faint salty taste. The original fishy smell was also eliminated by Bufang during the roasting process with herbs. Thus, what was left in his mouth was only the fragrance of meat, the ultimate fragrance of meat. Yen stuffed the rest of the scorpion meat into his mouth, his beautiful eyes widening. After eating this piece of meat, his originally tired spirit became much more awake. His powerless body was also filled with energy. It was too delicious. Yen smiled excitedly. That smile of hers was extremely charming. She continued to hold the chopsticks, moving them toward the scorpion meat in the scorpion shell. Piece by piece, she picked up the meat. She ate piece after piece. Bufang was also eating the scorpion meat, his brows slightly furrowed. This was his first time roasting this scorpion meat. Honestly speaking, it didn't meet Bufang's expectations. Bufang couldn't help but sigh. Just now, he was fighting and cooking at the same time, so it still affected him a little. Although it was delicious, there were still flaws. Ouyang Xiaoyi and the others were also holding their bowls and chopsticks, eating. However, their cultivation was still relatively weak. The grade of this scorpion meat was too high. Just one bite, and they felt a kind of swelling feeling, as if the energy in their bodies was about to overflow. Thus, although they wanted to eat it, after one bite they couldn't eat anymore. If they forced it down, they would probably explode from the energy contained in this scorpion meat. Naturally, they didn't want to explode. Thus, in the end, only Bufang and Yen were left eating. Bufang ate a few pieces of meat, then stopped eating. As for Yen, the more she ate, the more excited she became. He sat down on the ground with a smack on his butt. The scorpion meat was eaten at a speed visible to the naked eye. After eating one, there was still another. Yen, who was very happy, began to eat the second one, the third one, the fourth one. In the end, only the scorpion shell was left on the ground. There was also Yen, who was holding her stomach and smiling happily. This meal was very satisfying, and it allowed her body to gain a lot of strength. The power of the stars in her mind also seemed to have calmed down a lot, and Yen didn't feel very tired. "Do you still want to eat?" The corner of Bufang's mouth twitched. Looking at Yen, who had eaten all 4 scorpions that were more than 2 meters tall, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. This woman was really abnormal. Ouyang Xiaoyi, Xiao Xiaolong, and the others also looked at Yen, as if they were looking at a monster. Ouyang Xiaoyi's mouth was even trembling. This was definitely not her beautiful and noble sister Yen. Her sister Yen couldn't eat so much. "It's okay. I'm a little full." Yen rubbed her slightly round belly, smiling as she said. Everyone was speechless. "If it's not enough, I still have 2 more scorpion pincers." Bufang looked at Yen and said, "Really? Scorpion pincers are the most delicious. Owner Bu's culinary skills are unrivaled." Yen was pleasantly surprised. She also took the opportunity to flatter Bufang. However, Bufang obviously didn't buy it. "In your dreams, are you a pig?" Bufang rolled his eyes at Yen and retrieved the porcelain bowls from the other's hands. Everyone stood on the spot, feeling a little unsatisfied. "Let's go to the dungeon to save people. Aren't there still a lot of people imprisoned there?" Bufang asked. Xiao Xiaolong, Ouyang Xiaoyi, and the others suddenly came to a realization. That's right. Their relatives were still imprisoned in the dungeon. There were still many spirit beasts in the dungeon. Just now they were so engrossed in eating that they actually forgot such an important matter. Then, under Ouyang Xiaoyi's lead, everyone walked toward the dungeon. This dungeon was dug out by the Light Wind Empire's emperor in the early years. It was specially used to imprison prisoners. Passing through the imperial palace's courtyard, they came to a side door. After entering the side door and walking a long path filled with red walls, they arrived at the entrance of the dungeon. The great battle in the imperial palace didn't seem to affect this place at all. The ones guarding the big boss were still those powerful demon scorpion race experts. When these experts saw Bufang's group, their eyes instantly shrank. They issued a solemn warning, forbidding them to continue approaching and moving forward. Bufang clasped his hands behind his back. He didn't care about these demon scorpion experts' orders in the slightest. He strode forward, his mental energy surging out. Around his body, a dark gold fire dragon appeared. The fire dragon roared, floating and entrenched as Bufang walked. With a flick of his finger, it flew toward the crazily roaring demon scorpion experts. After those experts' bodies came into contact with the heaven and earth obsidian flame, they were instantly burned into ashes. They couldn't stop the footsteps of Bufang's group at all. The people of the Light Wind Empire in the dungeon were instantly rescued. After losing the demon scorpion race's leader, Xie He, the remaining demon scorpion race experts weren't a threat at all. Very quickly they either escaped or died. Those who didn't escape and wanted to counterattack and kill Bufang were all burned into ashes by Bufang's heaven and earth obsidian flame. Today, Bufang's control of flames was getting better and better. The dungeon was full. Basically, the people of the Light Wind Empire who survived were all captured in the dungeon. Originally, Xie He had planned to use these humans as long-term food. However, it was a pity that Bufang's appearance disrupted his plans. After he escaped, he allowed these people to survive. The people of the Light Wind Empire were originally in despair. However, no one would have thought that there would be a day where they could see the light of day again. These people walked out of the dungeon with tears streaming down their faces. They directly knelt on the ground, spread their hands, and kowtowed to the heavens. They were grateful to their fate, grateful to Bufang. Ji Qingxue had aged a lot and his beard was unkempt. He once again saw Bufang. In an instant, all sorts of feelings welled up in his heart. Ji Qingxue had thought that his Light Wind Empire was about to be destroyed. However, he never would have thought that Bufang, who had left the imperial capital far away, would actually return, chase away those demons, and save them. Ji Qingxue really didn't know what to say to Bufang, so he could only give him a deep bow. Bufang didn't mind. He only did what he could to help. After all, the Light Wind Empire was the place he stayed the longest in after coming to the Hidden Dragon continent. He naturally had deep feelings for this place. Lending a helping hand in times of crisis was also normal. After that, Ji Qingxue returned to his own imperial palace. Looking at the palace that was in a mess, he couldn't help but bitterly smile. The people who survived began their work of restoring their homes. Bufang brought Yen back to Fang Fang's little store. Because he had just escaped, he still had many things to say to his family, so he didn't immediately go to the restaurant. When Yen returned to the restaurant, she naturally went to Bufang's room and slept soundly. After eating 4 demon scorpions, Yen still felt tired. After a while, she fell into a deep sleep. Bufang had no choice but to go to the kitchen to practice cooking. At the same time, he also made some special dishes to form the gourmet array. Although he had left the Light Wind Empire for a long time, looking at the Light Wind Empire that was almost destroyed, Bufang still felt that he had to do something. With his current strength, the gourmet array he made was enough to increase the Light Wind Empire's defense countless times. Moreover, the area covered by the gourmet array increased, so the Light Wind Empire could be expanded. Bufang also cooked a lot of delicacies and assembled them into the gourmet array, which he stored in the system's dimensional storage. After all, the gourmet array could greatly increase Bufang's battle prowess. In the sky, a stream of light tore through the sky. With a rumble, it ruthlessly hit a mountain peak. That mountain peak directly collapsed from the impact. Among the crushed rocks, a figure slowly walked out. It was the demon scorpion race's leader, Xie, who had lost both of his arms. Xie's face was filled with resentment. Dense nether energy circulated around his body as he stared in the direction of the Light Wind Empire, gritting his teeth. Damn stinky chef. Wait for this leader to return. I will definitely tear you into pieces. I will swallow your flesh piece by piece. Turning his body, Xie turned into a stream of light and continued to dash forward. The direction he was dashing toward was the 100,000 mountains. Once he reached the 100,000 mountains, he could use the transportation gate to ask for help from the demon scorpion race's heavenly ethereal realm expert. As long as the demon scorpion race's heavenly ethereal realm expert descended, that stinky chef must die. Chapter 863. Xie's speed was very fast. Although he didn't have his arms, his speed became even faster. When the sky had just turned bright, a ray of light shot over from afar. Xie had already reached the 100,000 mountains, landing at the entrance of the 100,000 mountains. Looking from afar, the 100,000 mountains was covered in a layer of twisted nether energy. The monstrous nether energy was like a ferocious claw, letting out a soundless roar. Xie's eyes revealed a trace of respect. He knew that within the 100,000 mountains there was an extremely powerful existence. Thinking about his 4 generals that were roasted red, and thinking about the pair of pincers that he had no choice but to give up, Xie felt his heart dripping blood. His rage was also burning fiercely, and his resentment towards Bufang had also reached the peak. Originally, he could have been a local tyrant in the Light Wind Empire, but because of the sudden appearance of this fellow, he had to escape from the Light Wind Empire. This time, he must ask the experts of his race to take revenge for him. Stepping into the 100,000 mountains, the nether energy within the mountains surged, rolling and boiling. A mountain peak stood majestically. On top of that mountain peak, there was a meandering tree that covered the sky. Those dense leaves seemed to be covering everything. The branches curled up, forming a circle. Within that circle, nether energy continuously boiled and surged. Within that nether energy, there would be experts of the ruined prison walking out from time to time. This was the mandala tree's transportation gate, the gate that allowed them to reach this world. Xie's eyes revealed a fanatical expression. On that thick tree trunk, there were experts sitting cross-legged, closing their eyes to rest. These experts were the great ethereal realm existences from the ruined prison. Their auras were extremely terrifying. They sat cross-legged on the tree trunk, borrowing the aura emitted by the mandala tree to cultivate. Suddenly, a heavenly illusory realm expert opened his eyes. The gaze from those eyes seemed to be able to tear the void apart, causing Xie's heart to tremble. Xie hurriedly lowered his head in shame. That was the great ethereal realm expert of their demon scorpion race. Xie felt wronged in his heart as he narrated everything that had happened to him. The great ethereal realm expert of the demon scorpion race didn't have the slightest bit of sympathy for Xie, who had lost both his arms. The portal teleported you here to do business, not for you to enjoy yourself. You have only yourself to blame for this. Xie was taught a lesson, but he didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Even though he felt wronged, he didn't dare to speak. The position of a great ethereal realm expert in the demon scorpion race was considered noble. At least, it was much more noble than Xie. Xie, was only half a step into the great emptiness realm and had not even reached the true great emptiness realm. Facing a heavenly emptiness realm expert, he naturally had the respect that he should have. Do you know that our ruined prison wants to attack the hidden dragon continent? This is such a backward and remote place. Why is there a need to muster so many people? The heavenly ethereal realm expert asked. Xie's body trembled. How could he know such a secret? He only knew that he had to complete the task that was arranged according to the orders. The heavenly ethereal realm expert stood up from the mandala tree, clasping his hands behind his back as he gazed into the distance. There's no harm in telling you. If you can find it, it will be considered a great merit. The goal of us invading the hidden dragon continent is to find the remains of the previous strongest demon king of the ruined prison, the heavenly ethereal realm expert faintly said. Hearing that, Xie's entire body shook. The remains of the strongest demon king? It sounded really awesome. The current ruined prison had 8 great demon kings, but a long time ago, the ruined prison had 9 great demon kings. The extra demon king was the strongest demon king of the ruined prison. His combat power and cultivation base were the strongest. However, this demon king had fallen a long time ago. And from all kinds of information, it seemed that the strongest demon king had fallen in the hidden dragon continent. Out of the 8 great demon kings of the ruined prison, 4 agreed with this point of view, which was why they advocated attacking the hidden dragon continent. As for the remaining 4 demon kings, they remained neutral. This also led to the current situation. Even though the place we are at is the remote southern region, but there is a high possibility that the demon king's remains are here. If you lazy fellows make a mistake, then even 10,000 deaths will not be enough to absolve you. The heavenly ethereal realm expert said a lot, and Xie, he only listened obediently. In the end, the heavenly ethereal realm expert still sent a great ethereal realm expert to the Light Wind Empire. Even though the Light Wind Empire was not very important, Xie, he was still a member of the demon scorpion race. After suffering such humiliation in the backward southern region, he naturally had to get it back. The second day, the wind and snow were still drifting in the sky. Xiao Xiaolong returned to the restaurant and continued to cook. The restaurant also resumed its business. After not seeing him for a long time, Xiao Xiaolong's culinary skills had improved a lot. He could actually withstand Bufang's inspection, which made Bufang a little surprised. Regarding this, Xiao Xiaolong was very proud. After all, being able to shock Bufang in culinary skills meant that his improvement was not small. However, after Bufang demonstrated a few moves, Xiao Xiaolong felt the difference. When Bufang's dishes were cooked, the aroma was incomparably dense. After smelling it, his entire mood seemed to become joyful. Whether it was the technique, the knife skills, or the control of the fire, Xiao Xiaolong felt that Bufang was like a towering mountain. He still had a long way to go. The wind and snow blew, bringing a cold air into the little restaurant. Bufang pulled a chair and sat in front of the restaurant. Curling up on the chair, he quietly watched the wind and snow that filled the sky. It was quite a different feeling. Ouyang Xiaoyi was very lively. As a waitress, she was much more professional than that lazy fellow Chu Chongxing. Xiao Xiaolong cooked, while Ouyang Xiaoyi was in charge of serving and ordering. The division of labor was orderly, which made Bufang quite satisfied. However, today, Bufang did not come back to Fang Fang's little store to watch the flowers bloom and wilt. He needed to help Enai Yen recover her memory and control the heavenly star catcher disc. In this way, Bufang could be considered to have completed his temporary task. Only then could Enai Yen use the heavenly star catcher disc to help him brew wine. Brewing a jar of good wine was indeed a little troublesome. Whether it was the choice of ingredients or the brewing method, they all took up a lot of Bufang's time and energy. Because of this, Bufang was more interested in the Acheron of Helplessness wine. He couldn't wait to brew the Acheron of Helplessness. Thus, after Bufang rested, he pulled up Enai Yen, who was sleeping soundly in the room, and started the journey to recover her memory. This time, Bufang and Enai Yen needed to go to the place where Enai Yen had stayed for a long time, the Celestial Arcanum sect. Enai Yen did not want to go to the Celestial Arcanum sect. At this moment, she only wanted to sleep. She needed a lot of sleep to ensure that the star energy in her body would not explode. She was pulled up by Bufang, and they stepped onto the spirit boat. With the spirit boat, it was very convenient to go to the Celestial Arcanum sect. As the saintess of the heavenly secret Holy Land, Yen naturally had many good things on her. The spirit boat was the most popular transportation equipment in the Hidden Dragon continent, so she naturally had many. Moreover, Yan's spirit boat was made of the best materials, and its speed was extremely fast. It whistled through the air as though it was pulling a thin line. The two of them sat on the spirit boat, leaving the Light Wind Empire and heading to the Celestial Arcanum sect. Boom! Boom! In the sky above the 100,000 mountains, dark clouds covered the sky, giving off a loud roar. It was as though there was lightning flashing within. In the next instant, a spirit boat tore through the void and appeared, floating in the sky. Amethyst Elder sat cross-legged on the spirit boat. His purple hair was like long swords, stabbing into the void. It was as though he wanted to poke a hole in the void. Standing up from the spirit boat, Amethyst Elder's body was filled with terrifying energy. With his hands clasped behind his back, he stepped out of the spirit boat and soared into the sky. The southern region is really a barren land. Why would the owner of the heavenly star-catcher disc come to such a barren land? Amethyst Elder felt the thin spiritual energy in the air. He could not help but furrow his brows in doubt. The spiritual energy in the Valley of Gluttony was so abundant, but the owner did not choose to stay in the Valley of Gluttony. Instead, he came to the barren and backward southern region. For tens of thousands of years, the southern region had always been a relatively barren and backward place in the Hidden Dragon continent. However, even in a barren place, it was still possible for a few talented individuals to appear. They were able to step into the true divine physique echelon in this barren place. In the Hidden Dragon Royal Court, those in the divine physique echelon were like cabbages. However, in the southern region, there was not a single divine physique expert in 10,000 years. This was also strange. According to the ancient records, the southern region of tens of thousands of years ago was different from the current southern region. At that time, the southern region was rich in spiritual energy, and there were many geniuses. Unfortunately, no one knew when the southern region had declined. Of course, the reason why Amethyst Elder came here today was not to investigate these strange things. His target was the owner of the heavenly star-catcher disc. He did not need to spend so much effort to investigate. The southern region definitely had secrets, but Amethyst Elder was not interested in these secrets. Within the 100,000 mountains, on the mandala tree, the great ethereal realm experts of the ruined prison suddenly opened their eyes. They raised their heads, and a divine light shot out from their eyes. It tore through the sky as they stared at Amethyst Elder. Amethyst Elder's aura was too intense, like a scorching sun. It was hard not to attract their attention. Boom, boom, boom. The auras of several great ethereal realm experts burst out at the same time, turning into pillars of energy that soared into the sky, surrounding Amethyst Elder. Amethyst Elder narrowed his eyes. He could not help but feel a little surprised. The ruined prison actually sent so many great ethereal realm experts to the southern region? What was the meaning of this? Amethyst Elder's heart was filled with doubt. However, this doubt did not last for long. He raised his hand, and the closed eye on his palm suddenly opened. A wave of nether energy wrapped around his arm, and a strange aura spread out. The great ethereal realm experts on the mandala tree were instantly shocked. Feeling the aura of this demon eye, they quickly dispersed their auras, no longer paying attention to Amethyst Elder. Amethyst Elder's body actually had the aura of a demon king. This caused many great ethereal realm experts to not dare to offend him. Amethyst Elder deeply looked through the pitch-black clouds, looking at the giant mandala tree. Taking a deep breath, he stepped on the air. With one step, His figure shot out hundreds of miles, heading in the direction of the heavenly star-catcher disk's aura. Illusory spirit swamp near the coast of the endless sea. Sky-shaking waves suddenly surged. Those waves moved forward at an extremely fast speed. If one looked closely, they would all suck in a breath of cold air. That was because, on top of those waves, there were many creatures with different appearances. Among them, the leader was a giant golden prawn. These creatures walked on the waves, charging toward the illusory spirit swamp. In the sky above the illusory spirit swamp, a spirit boat cut through the sky, then suddenly stopped. Chapter 864. The spirit boat streaked across the sky, and when it passed by the illusory spirit swamp, it stopped. Bufang stood on the spirit boat, poking his head out to look at the boundless spirit swamp. His eyes couldn't help but reveal a trace of nostalgia. This seemed to be the Serpent Men tribe. His other apprentice, the Serpent Man Yu Fu, stayed in the Serpent Men city. On the way to the Celestial Arcanum sect, they had to pass by the illusory spirit swamp. Thus, Bufang could go to the Serpent Men tribe and meet his other apprentice. In truth, if they weren't in Fong Fong's little store, Bufang didn't have much hope for Yu Fu's culinary skills to improve. After all, it wasn't easy to improve one's culinary skills. Although he had taught him most of what he could in Fong Fong's little store, he still had to rely on his own practice. Yu Fu seemed to be the next Serpentine sovereign, so she must be very busy every day. It wouldn't be easy for her to improve her culinary skills. The spirit boat landed, bringing along a wave of air as it floated not far above the illusory spirit swamp. Inside the spirit boat, Anai Yen was lying on her side, snoring loudly. As time passed, this woman's sleeping time was getting longer and longer, which wasn't good news. The longer she slept, the more time Anai Yen spent suppressing the power of the stars in her mind. Who knew when this woman would fall asleep and never wake up? However, it shouldn't be a problem for the time being. After all, every time Anai Yen woke up, she would have a big meal. Bufang would also choose to cook large spirit beasts to fill Anai Yen's stomach. Every time after eating, Anai Yen would become more energetic. Stepping on the soft swamp ground, he felt that the swamp ground was somewhat warm, and a faint wave of heat was emitted from it, making people feel quite comfortable. Perhaps it was because of the terrain. The heaven and earth spirit energy here was denser than the light wind empire. The spirit energy in the light wind empire was really too weak, ridiculously weak. In other words, the spirit energy in the entire southern region was especially weak. As Bufang walked, he saw the Serpent Men tribe in the distance. Compared to the light wind empire, this place seemed to be a lot more stable. Compared to the tragic invasion of the Light Wind Empire by the demon scorpion race, this place was really too safe. Perhaps it was because the Serpent Men tribe had more experts. Of course, it could also be because the demon scorpion tribe did not have too many experts in the illusory spirit swamp. The current Serpent Men tribe's defense was much stronger than before. At the very least, the ferocious-looking fence in front of the door hid the prosperity in the depths of the interior. Perhaps because Bufang and Anai Yen could tell at a glance that they were humans, they were allowed into the Serpent Men tribe without much interrogation. The Serpent Men tribe was very lively. Compared to the previous barren land, it was much more prosperous. Weapons were laid out on both sides of the street. Compared to weapon shops, restaurants were the most popular. The Naga tribe's restaurant was not luxuriously decorated. Instead, it was a shabby house with many tables and chairs. Bufang and Anai Yen entered a restaurant. They ordered a few dishes out of curiosity and took a break. Of course, Bufang would not choose to drink the wine of this shabby restaurant. Bufang had better wine. Opening the lid of the wine jar, the fragrance of the wine that wafted out made many serpent men in the restaurant salivate. Too fragrant. This wine fragrance was really too fragrant. However, no matter how fragrant it was, they could not drink this wine because Bufang would not give it to them. This was the Frost Blaze Path Understanding Brew, a very precious jar of wine. After drinking 2 cups with Yen, Bufang carefully put away the Frost Blaze Path Understanding Brew. The wine fragrance that had enveloped the entire restaurant also disappeared. The surrounding diners all felt a little regretful. Someone wanted to come over and ask about Bufang's wine. However, after seeing Bufang's expressionless face, he gave up on this idea. The dishes were served, and the aroma was not bad. However, they naturally could not be compared to the dishes cooked by Bufang. The first dish that was served made Bufang a little surprised. Because this dish, Bufang had cooked it before. It was the roasted fish he had cooked in the Serpent Men tribe. He had used the special fat fish of the tribe to roast the fish. Although the process was different and the cooking method was rough, Bufang could still recognize that it was a roasted fish. Regarding this, Bufang was a little surprised. Back then, he had cooked the roasted fish unintentionally. He did not expect that these serpent men would learn it. These serpent men were really talented. Judging from the popularity of food in the Serpent Men tribe, it was much better than when he had first come to the tribe. Bufang used his chopsticks and began to taste the roasted fish. The chopsticks peeled off the fish skin, revealing the white and tender flesh inside. This fat fish's flesh was especially good, and its texture was excellent. Back then, Bufang had liked this fat fish, so he had cooked it. Picking up a piece of fish and putting it in his mouth, Bufang furrowed his brows. Then, his brows relaxed. After taking a bite, he put down his chopstick. With Bufang's current cooking skills, he was extremely picky about food. This roasted fish was really good, which could be seen from the popularity of the restaurant. However, in Bufang's restaurant it was not good enough. However, the control of the fire and the combination of ingredients were much worse. Bufang did not have high expectations. After all, the other party had learned how to cook from him. It was normal that there were some flaws that the other party had not learned. Thus, Bufang did not eat the fish. Instead, he sipped the wine. Yen was good at eating. Basically, she did not refuse anyone. With her current appetite, she could eat until the sky was the sky. Bufang did not expect that after fusing with the heavenly star-catcher disc, he would become a super glutton. Was it because the heavenly star-catcher disc was also a glutton? It was hard to say. Did you guys hear? The Light Wind Empire has been completely conquered by those demons. Oh my God, the people of the Light Wind Empire have been eaten alive by those demons. Recently, the world has not been peaceful. Fortunately, our new Serpentine sovereign is wise. She united the Serpent Men tribe to fight against the demons. The demons' invasion was resolved several times. You don't say. Her Majesty is really wise. However, besides the demons' invasion, many strange things have happened. Do you know about the big crystal mine that is 300 miles away? The crystal mine that was discovered and mined has collapsed again. A big hole with a diameter of dozens of miles has appeared. Many of our tribe's experts have died. The restaurant was very lively. Many serpent men were eating and chatting. Bufang's mental energy was very strong. He could hear all the information around him. The thing that piqued Bufang's interest the most was the collapse of the crystal mine. Bufang knew about the crystal mine because the crystal source purple essence was still in his system's dimensional bag. There wasn't anything special about that big crystal mine back then. Why would it collapse again now? There was something magical about it. It was just that the crystal source had given him a weirdo Xiaopi. Apart from that, there was nothing special about it. Then, why did it collapse again? The serpent men chatted for a long time. However, none of them told them why the mine collapsed and what was underneath it. As such, Bufang did not waste any more time. Yen had finished the entire grilled fish. She was now gnawing on the fish bones, looking like a hungry ghost that had been reincarnated. Bufang glanced at the woman, then pulled her out of the restaurant. They headed straight toward the Grand Serpent Men City. Bufang held Ai Yan's hand and leisurely strolled in the park. He released his mental energy, and no one could obstruct his steps. The city was much more prosperous than before. There were also many restaurants, which surprised Bufang. After Bufang gave his name, he went to the Serpent Men's imperial palace. No one stopped him. Yu Fu, the current Serpentine sovereign, ordered her subordinates to let him pass when she heard Bufang's name. Thus, Bufang easily entered the main hall. As soon as he entered the main hall, everyone's gaze fell on him. They were the Serpent Men elders' gazes. Some of them were scrutinizing him, while others were solemn. However, there was one person whose gaze was burning with passion. It belonged to the Serpentine sovereign, Yu Fu. Yu Fu was very happy. Her face was full of smiles. She swayed her serpent tail and flew down from her seat. She arrived in front of Bufang. Bufang clasped his hands behind his back and looked at Yu Fu. The once young and inexperienced Serpent Man girl had now become the Serpentine sovereign. She looked incomparably majestic, which was a little different from the Yu Fu in his memory. Yu Fu and Bufang chatted for a long time. It seemed that it had been a long time since she saw Bufang. Yu Fu was very talkative, chattering nonstop. She talked about her persistence in cooking after Bufang left. Although she was an empress, she still spent a lot of time on cooking. She loved cooking, and she had promised Bufang that she would not give up cooking. Yu Fu's persistence surprised Bufang a little. Then, his gaze softened. This Serpent Man girl's character hadn't changed. Next, Bufang observed Yu Fu's cooking skills. Yu Fu excitedly cooked many dishes. These dishes were taught by Bufang and some were self-taught. Among them was the roasted fish, which she had secretly learned from Bufang. Yu Fu was amazed by this dish, so she spent a lot of time to study it. This dish was popularized in the entire Grand Serpentine City. Compared to the roasted fish in the restaurant, Yu Fu's roasted fish was much more exquisite and delicious. At least, her control over the heat and the temperature of the oil was much better. Moreover, the combination of the ingredients was also very meticulous. The taste was not bad. Bufang nodded his head in satisfaction. Ai Yan, on the other hand, had the opportunity to eat a big meal. The whole fish fell into her stomach. After chatting for a while, Bufang suddenly remembered that he had inquired about the big crystal mine in the restaurant, so he casually asked about it. He didn't expect that the atmosphere in the Serpent Men tribe would change when he asked this question. Owner Bu, you don't know this, but the big crystal mine has become a taboo topic in our tribe. Because of that mine, at least 2 supreme beings of our Grand Serpentine City have fallen. Yu Fu's complexion was heavy, and she sighed. 2 supreme beings. Bufang's brows twitched, and his heart became more and more curious. It's pitch black, bottomless, and most importantly, when you get close, there is actually a fragrance of food. Yu Fu frowned as she described the smell to Bufang. Bufang was taken aback, and his face was filled with confusion. There was a fragrance of food in the big crystal mine? How was this possible? Could it be that someone was cooking in the big crystal mine? Yu Fu seemed to have seen through Bufang's doubts. She took a deep breath and said, "There is indeed a fragrance of food. Moreover, it can only be found in the area of the big crystal mine. When you walk out of the area, you can't smell any fragrance at all. That fragrance of food is poisonous. It can stir up one's mind. I once personally approached the big crystal mine, and when I smelled the fragrance, I sank into it for 3 days and 3 nights. I couldn't eat or drink, and I felt like I had lost my soul." Bufang furrowed his brows. Was this really the fragrance of food? What kind of fragrance could reach such a level? Bufang knew that even with his current cooking skills, he wouldn't be able to cook such a dish. Involuntarily, the corners of Bufang's mouth curled up. The fragrance of food in the big crystal mine. He really wanted to experience it. Just as everyone was chatting, Suddenly, outside the main hall, a serpent man rushed in a panic, and he even let out a frightened shout. Your Highness! Not good. The endless sea's oceanic species is heading toward the big crystal mine. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.